connection is very key. It is not an accident that you are encouraged to see someone, say hello to someone, make new connections. Connections drive the work we do. People are really the backbone of structure, of structuring. So when you meet people, as you meet people here, keep connections, keep them, and we encourage you also, strike new connections, new partnerships with people, collaborate with people. With the number of businesses in the room and the number of individuals in the room, I believe that we can cross-pollinate, we can share ideas and build bigger institutions, bigger transactions, bigger everything. So I would leave it off here so that we are able to take the conversation forward, because we want to keep strictly to time, and we have some other conversations that will go on, the panel discussion. So before I keep you here longer than necessary, I will leave it off here and we'll take it up later. And I will once again give you a very big warm welcome to the Nigerian business terrain, structuring business in a fast-paced economy, the Chlp Conference 2024. Very, very big welcome. Thank you. So join me as you continue putting your hands together for Folarin Oloyede as he takes us through the Chlp address. Please keep clapping. Thank you.
Hey, thank you so much for being here. We're delighted that you are here. So, I'm going to deliver the Chlp address. Whatever I say here, it's not me that said it. I'm just re-echoing what the entire team says about the theme of this conference. So if I goof, they goofed. And if I fly, they're the ones flying. So, the Nigerian business terrain, structuring business in a fast-paced economy. On June 1, 2023, in this same venue, we had a conversation on the impact of recent laws and regulations in the Nigerian business environment, highlighting the provisions of recent laws and regulations at the time. Even though, as at that time, we said that we were considering the impact, I'm not sure anybody had any binoculars to see what the impact would have been in the last 1 year. But hey, we're here again. So, the current state of the economy. In the midst of the quagmire, we have observed, quite interestingly, that an encouraging number of businesses have remained solid and blossomed. The following are the premises of our observation. None of our clients at Chlp has gone under. During this time we're reviewing, a good number of them have rather expanded. The country has experienced significant increase in the inflow of foreign exchange. A privately owned indigenous oil refinery has also commenced production. We've been talking about this for several years, that local production of oil and all of that. Thankfully, that started in the last 1 year. And also a number of indigenous oil companies, including Prudent Energy and Services Limited, have continued to directly import petroleum products. And also commercial banks have recorded huge profits over this period. Now, I started with the good side, positive things that have happened in the last 1 year. In a situation where everybody can feel what started as a scratch is now like a pinch. For some people, it's already like a chokehold. But it's okay to start with what has happened, what has gone on well. On the flip side, a sizable number of businesses have folded up in the last 1 year. For instance, in the manufacturing sector alone, over 767 companies have closed down, according to the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. Following that I've just highlighted makes our theme this year quite timely, and we shall be unpacking this topic to glean insights on how to create formidable organizational and legal structures for resilience and sustenance. Our disposition as a conference or as a firm is to, in spite of challenges, find opportunities. So you will forgive us if we're not dwelling so much on what is not going on well. We want to see how problems can be solved and how opportunities can be harnessed So globally, the economic landscape has experienced a quick transition between business cycles over the last couple of years, with not much expected to change over the next half. According to the IMF, World Economic Outlook 2024, global economic growth for 2023 was 3.1%, while growth is projected at 3.1% and 3.2% for 2024 and 2025 respectively. According to the National Bureau of Statistics, the average growth rate in Nigeria between 2022 and Q1 2024 is about 2.9%, which is the region of the global numbers. Nigeria's headline inflation climbed to 33.69%. A layman will say this figure is wrong, that it has actually gone up to 100, more than 100%. You know, whatever you bought last year for 100 naira, maybe this year you're buying it at minimum of 200 naira. But data doesn't work like that. So inflation has climbed to 33.69% in April 2024, and that's the highest that it has been since March 1996. It's been up. It was up 3.2% in the prior months of March. The annual core inflation rate, which excludes farm produce and energy, jumped to a fresh record high of 26.8% in April this year. In the same month, consumer prices rose by 2.29%. Well, if you're still wondering what fast means, this is Formula One for you. How things have really moved in the last 1 year. So the exchange rates between the naira and other currencies has continued to witness variability with depreciation. This variability makes it difficult to predict returns. Nigeria's current interest rate is 26.25% from 18.75% about a year ago. So, if economic growth has either remained the same or declined in the last half-decade, what then brings about the fast-paced nature of the economy we talk about and experience today? The term fast-paced simply refers to the rapidly changing business environment resulting from elements such as technology and innovation, global economic conditions, government policies, and socio-political factors, market forces, consumer behavior, among others. In response to these changes, we shed light on the healthy legal and business practices that give businesses a fighting chance so that organizations and business transactions survive the volatile conditions the economy offers. It is easy to just throw in the towel and just like, everything is upside down. You know, it's easy to say businesses cannot do anything in this kind of environment, but we're here to push a different agenda that it is possible to structure business even in this kind of economy and actually be successful. So as a law firm, we cater to various services of businesses in small, medium, and large categories. We have found one thing, that something critical to the success of all these clients all the clients in these categories that we've interacted with has been structuring. Business structuring entails adopting or creating appropriate legal structures and the related business systems that ensure stability and drive growth. So I'll take you to the law school from here. Is that okay? Anybody want to be a lawyer? So we just take a quick detour to the various forms of business that the Corporate and Allied Matters Act provides for. So we have the sole proprietor, which is the business name. We have the private company limited by shares. We have the public company limited by shares, company limited by guarantee, and unlimited company. We have limited and limited liability partnerships. So these are the basic structures that CAMA has brought into existence. So whatever you're doing, whatever you say you're doing as a business person, you should have at least one of these as your foundation. So I'm going to skip some things. So there are a lot of questions around why businesses fail. Everybody postulates, everybody tries to idealize. Why do businesses fail? There is no one answer to that question. But we believe that a business which is not appropriately legally structured is bound to fail, regardless of its size. As a matter of fact, many existing big businesses have a faulty foundation, even though they may have a solid appearance. We always hear stories of businesses disappearing overnight. This position that we just put forward now explains that. So, having explained the above, having established the points that we've done so far, we want to take a step, we want to step the conversation up by a notch. All right, so in properly structuring, I earlier said that as a firm, we cater to services for large corporates, medium and small businesses. So something that we are submitting regarding large companies is that in properly structuring a large company, it is non-negotiable to have a strong management team backed by a diverse, functional board of directors. There are instances where even though a business carries the title and outlook of a large corporation, in the back end, the management and board seem to function at the whims and caprices of one person. An unexemplary incident that I would refer to here without mentioning names is a situation where the CEO, the MD, chairman of a company that's supposedly doing hundreds of millions of naira in turnover a year is the one directly engaging somebody who has done a bad review of the product. It's a classic example of how large organizations should not be. In a typical situation, somebody in the communications department should have just fixed that. It's not a good example. So regarding the tech ecosystem, many startups have also been caught up in the quagmire whereby some founders take full control of operations and governance, leading to outcomes that negatively impact their founders. In our relationship with startups, in the startup ecosystem, we see scenarios where the founders want the startup to move fast. And things can really move fast if you just put away some structure, you can get some things done. You don't have to go to a board, you don't need a resolution from the board, you don't need to go through the finance committee, you don't have to do all of that. You're just the founder and you're the start and finish everything. And so things can really move fast in that scenario, but it's quite risky. In the last 18 months, a number of startups have closed shop after burning millions of dollars on operations, quote unquote, operations and growth. Some of this money have been traced to the funding of a luxurious lifestyle of the founders. There's no doubt that founders in the past have been able to scale faster because they are not obligated to answer to a board of directors who may slow things down. We understand that speed in decision-making is the desire of every executive, and we believe speed is a requirement for innovation. However, it is important to adhere to corporate governance procedures, as the accountability and diversity provided by good corporate governance help with better decision-making and can save a startup from extinction. So the argument is between speed and sustenance. You want to run very fast and be out of the game quickly, or you want to be there a long time, even though you are moving at a pace that seems not as fast as it could be. So every company must have a solid structure. No gainsaying. Finally, it's important to know that people are a critical part of building an effective structure. OAG, my partner alluded to that in the opening remarks. The most lofty of business structures without the right people to drive and maintain them will not last. This, therefore, shows the need for business leaders and all relevant stakeholders to ensure that the right people manage the running of a business along with their associated transactions. A business is a living organism, if I may use it like that. If you think you've trained somebody enough and then you leave them to themselves, there's a chance that you start seeing some deviation. You know, if you are into business here and you have cast a vision to a team and you have looked away for some time, only to come back and like, no, that's not what I said. That's not how we said we should do it. So you still have to keep your eyes on the people, and you have to ensure that the right people at once ensure the system works. So key takeaways from our address: organizations must closely follow market trends. How do you follow market trends? You don't follow market trends when the inflation has caught up with you. You follow market trends by seeing the inflation before it happens. So you follow market trends by seeing the devaluation of the currency before it happens. So second key takeaway is you should embrace regulatory compliance and use the law as a structuring and growth tool. We can see that in the real estate sector. Years ago, you've been able to avoid a particular regulation, and you feel like you've escaped. Years after, this regulation comes after you, and you see houses going down and people having no defense. You see the coastal way being constructed and demolitions happening, and they're simply saying, this is what the regulation says, and that's it. So businesses must embrace, as in, don't see it as a necessary evil. If you see it as a necessary evil, it might not work for you as a business advantage. So it should be embraced. Accept technology and innovation as worthy allies. Can't overemphasize that, because what you were doing last year, using 100 people to do, some young guy could just take a software and deliver it to you in hours. So if you are behind in terms of technology, your profits will be affected, and definitely you would not be able to achieve the success you should as your peers are doing. So last point, support people to build and maintain systems for growth. Since systems are driven by people, it is important that organizations appoint or develop intelligent people to drive and sustain intelligent systems. So that brings our address to a close. We are delighted also to share our corporate social responsibility report. We see the conference as an opportunity for us to share with the public what we as a firm are doing, apart from making money, apart from trying to make money, the good thing we're doing in the society. So in the last 1 year, we have taken up the cases of 5 inmates of the Nigerian Correctional Facility pro bono. These individuals had either been unable to afford legal services, and if we were to bill them for these services, we should make a couple of millions, but that's our way of giving back. So in the course of our visits to the facility, we came in contact with several inmates who have been awaiting trial endlessly. It's our plan that as regulations and resources allow us, that we'll triple this number of cases we're handling in the next 1 year. We also took up a number of civil matters free of charge, mostly including issues of unfair treatment by employers, high-handedness of landlords, and erroneous bank transfers. Some of those cases, we had to take them up because if the person was to procure legal services, for instance, somebody's had an erroneous transfer case of 100,000 naira. So you engage a lawyer to file court papers and all of that. You just give up on the money. So we've been handling a number of cases like that, and we've been taking on employers who have been unfairly treating employees too. So we commend everyone who is contributing to the worthy cause of building our society, and we call on everyone not yet committed to join the cause. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Folari Oloyede, for that rich and robust address. So right about now, we'll kickstart with the corporate structure. And to start off this session is none other than Mrs. Abiola Babatunde Ojo. I'll quickly read her profile and we'll invite her forward. Abiola Babatunde Ojo is a versatile and commercially astute senior management executive with over 19 years multifaceted experience across the banking and oil and gas industries, spearheading various aspects of corporate management and driving successful business strategies and initiatives. Abiola's expertise lies in leading corporate development efforts, operational strategies, and improvement initiatives to achieve defined goals and expand market share. She is adept in overseeing a wide variety of operational and fiscal responsibilities to ensure optimal business performance and realize significant revenue enhancements, whilst recording success in team building, motivation, and leadership positions. She presently works at Prudence Energy and Services Limited and Indigenous Oil and Gas Services Limited. Abiola is the managing director. She led the team that built the company's strong client base, setting a record of over 200% growth in turnover and profitability within 2 years in her role as Executive Director, Chief Commercial Officer, and has been recognized by the organization for many other notable contributions. She has overall responsibility for broadening market share and integrated commercial success of the organization. Abiola is a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants Nigeria and an associate member of Chartered Institute of Taxation Nigeria. She is an alumnus of the prestigious University of Ibadan, having graduated with a BSc degree in statistics from the institution and a master's degree in corporate governance from Leeds Beckett University, Leeds, United Kingdom. Please let's make you very welcome, Mrs. Abiola Babatunde Ojo.
Good morning, distinguished audience. It's a pleasure to be here again. I recall I was here sometimes last year. There's something about this conference we need to ask the organizers. Last year I was here as an executive director, and this year I'm here as a managing director. Last year I was here as just a panelist. This year I'm here as a speaker and a panelist. I think this is the place to be, right? All right. Let me start by congratulating the organizers of this event, the Chlp team. I want to congratulate you on your second annual conference, Law and Business Conference. I think they deserve a round of applause. When you see young people doing things like this, it kind of encourages you, even those, especially those of us who have been in business for some time, to want to do more. This is really encouraging. We are impressed, and we are hopeful that this will not end here. By this time next year, I'm sure you're taking us somewhere bigger than this. Yeah, by the special grace of God. Okay, so the theme for this year is the Nigerian business terrain, structuring business in a fast-paced economy. That's the theme for the annual conference. The Nigerian business terrain, structuring business in a fast-paced economy. As simple as this theme is, in my own opinion, it is a subject of endless intellectual discourse. However, considering my little background in corporate governance, my business knowledge, I will try and give it my best shot in the 15 minutes that has been given to me. In the 15-minute period, we'll be quickly looking at navigating the Nigerian business terrain. So I've decided to tweak the theme a bit just to align with the theme of the conference. The theme of the conference is Nigerian business terrain, structuring business in a fast-paced world. So I'm going to do my presentation in 15 minutes with the title, Navigating the Nigerian Business Terrain, Building Resilience Through Effective Governance. As one of the partners said, there's really no quick fix to issues when we talk about Nigeria, because it's so complex. And if you're not careful, you think you have solution. By the time you're solving one, another issue crops up. So we're just going to be looking at how to navigate it by putting structures in place. In the 15 minutes, we'll be exploring the complexities of doing business in Nigeria. We'll discuss how structuring for sustainability is crucial in this fast-paced economy. We got the definition of what the team meant by fast-paced economy, an economy where things are evolving, changing every now and then, so many uncertainties. And then we'll also be looking at importance of effective governance in building resilience, overcoming challenges, and achieving long-term success in Nigerian markets. Let's move to the first slide. So quickly, we'll be looking at an overview of the Nigerian business terrain. As you can see on the screen, these are the key statistics. This screen provides an overview of the Nigerian business. It highlights the key statistics, the challenges, and the opportunities. Let's start from the key statistics. Even though this has been mentioned when one of the speakers was addressing us earlier, we can see the GDP growth as at 2022 was estimated at 3.5%. Some of these figures are known to so many of us, but for the purpose of this presentation, I think we should look at it again. GDP growth as at 2022 was estimated to be 3.5%. As at Q1 2023, because at the time of preparing this presentation, the source of the figures, which is the National Bureau of Statistics, could only establish Q1 2023. And it is just right for me to present what is verified and not what I think the system, how the economy is running. So as at Q1 2023, the GDP growth reduced to 2.74%. Inflation rates as at 2022 was 12.6%. As at 2023 Q1, it has risen to 28.9%. I'm sure without explanation, we all are feeling it. So without even seeing the figures, you would have an idea of what inflation rate would be as at this time. Even though what we're hearing is that there's a committee that has been set up by the presidency to curb inflation, and part of the recommendations which they want to implement is to firstly remove import duty on staple food, because those are essential items. They want to remove import duty on staple food and essential items. They want to also remove import duty on pharmaceutical items. They're planning to give interest-free loan to farmers and those who are importing essential items and pharmaceutical goods. We are hopeful that by the time these recommendations are implemented, this inflation will begin to come down. Our population as of 2022 was 202 million. As of Q1 2023 is estimated to be 226.2 million. Urbanization rate, 3.2% as of 2022. The figure for 2023 hasn't been really established. And now we look at the challenges. What are the challenges of the Nigerian business terrain? As I said, most of these things are known to us. Without putting it on paper, we're feeling it. Regulatory changes is one challenge that we face so frequently in Nigeria. There's frequent change in policies and regulations. Today we hear of subsidy, tomorrow we hear of no fuel subsidy, energy subsidy. Different interpretations are being given to policies. There's economic instability. Volatility in currency exchange and commodity prices is something that is staring at us in the face on a daily basis. Recall, we all know that Nigeria is an FX-dependent country. So it's been very difficult for businesses that are dependent on FX to make business decisions, because you make a decision now, by the time you want to seal the deal is a different thing. I've had to, I don't want to use the word offend, had issues with some of my customers. At the time we're sealing the deal, we've agreed the rate. You want to pay in 2 hours and they're telling you, oh no, this rate no longer applies, especially for those of us that are really into the FX business. Because in order to get our business going, we go into FX purchase and all that. So you call the dealer, the treasurer calls the dealer and says, oh, my rate is 1,000 naira. Oh, give me 2 hours to move the money to you because, I can't keep the cash at hand. Under 1 hour, he calls you and says, the rate is no longer valid. And then you wonder, how do I make business decision considering all this? Infrastructure deficit is also another challenge that we face in the country. Inadequate power supply. How many people are on Bande here? The powerful people. How many people are on bandits? Because I know there's bandits. But I don't even know which one I belong to. But I know I'm getting power supply. When I have power, I have power. When I don't have, I look alternative. That's just one of the challenges we face here in the country. Transportation, due to lack of infrastructure, the roads are bad, logistics issues and all that. And then the big one, Mr. Corruption. You know, that is like, it's a bane of our society. It's everywhere, in the private sector, in the public sector. On a lighter note, you know it's so bad now that when you go to events, you want to park. How many people have noticed? Settlement depends on where you park. Oh. It is not by, it's my family that is doing something. Or there's space now, I can see space. Or no space. The place is full. When you now come and say, don't worry, we'll settle you now. And then the door opens and you're wondering, oh, where was this space initially? That's part of what we are saying. It has eaten deep into our marrow in Nigeria. So I think all of these are challenges that businesses face in Nigeria that is not enabling a lot of people to want to continue. That's why most of these multinationals are giving up. They're selling their assets, moving out of the country. But then the good news is that in all of these challenges, in all of this doom, opportunities still abound in Nigeria. Opportunities still abound in Nigeria. And why did I say so? Nigeria is a growing market. Nigeria it keeps growing. You'll be wondering that with all these things that are happening in Nigeria, people are still buying cars now. And it's not all of them that are doing Yahoo Yahoo. People are still doing legitimate business in Nigeria. Because Nigeria is a large and growing market, large and growing consumer market. Nigeria is the largest population in Africa, I'm sure most of us know. And it has been said that by the year 2050, it will be the third largest in the world. I'm sure people are wondering, third largest in the world, with all of this we are facing, going through. The economic growth, as much as it is unstable, the growth has been kind of steady. I mentioned earlier that our urbanization rate as at 2022 was 3.2%. I don't know what is it as at now. But then you think that with all of this tightness in the economy, we should all be moving to our rural village, our towns, our villages. Rather, people are still coming into the urban areas. And you're wondering, what are they coming to do? This thing is not enough for us. People are coming to join us. It shows that the opportunities are still there. Innovation is another thing that is another opportunity that we have in Nigeria. There's increasing adoption of technology and digital solutions. Nigeria has seen significant growth in digital penetration with more people going online, using social media to make money, embracing e-commerce. You see, every now and then we look at our phone, we see skits. These guys are making money. We are laughing, but they are making money. You see YouTube upload, you see people doing TikTok and all that, pleading that, follow me, follow me. You are following them, their pockets are becoming fatter. That's to show you that there's still opportunity in Nigeria. Is it the consumer spending we want to talk about? Nigerians are spending more on goods and services. Just check yourself. What you used to buy 2 years ago that you used to think you cannot afford, check yourself. You can see that some of those things you are beginning to buy them now, even in spite of the tightness in the economy. Because the opportunities are there. The demand for FMCG, some of us have not even gone to all those local markets in the past 1 year. We just walk into the supermarkets, buy what you want, buy your Maggi, buy everything. It's so improved now that people buy pepper and blended pepper inside supermarkets. That's to show you the opportunity. Some people are coming up with those ideas. That's to show you that opportunities still abound. Please help me with before I have only 15 minutes, right? Please just prompt me when I'm taking too much of your time. And also there's natural resources. We cannot overemphasize the fact that Nigeria is a blessed country. Abundant natural resources, oil and gas, steel, and a lot of minerals, and then strategic location. Nigeria is strategically located. It is a prime location for access to West and Central African markets. You'll be wondering, when you go to airports, you fly, you see all these foreigners coming into the country, and we Nigerians are saying, yeah, we're suffering, and they are coming. What are they coming to do? Isn't it that there's something they are saying, there are opportunities they are seeing that we are not really seeing, or we are not tapping into it properly? So just to tell us that the Nigerian business terrain, as uncertain, as volatile, as challenging as it is, there are still opportunities in this country. How are we positioning ourselves to tap into those opportunities? Next slide, please. Considering that my background is oil and gas industry, I want to quickly give us, just in 1-2 minutes, give us an overview of the oil and gas industry. These are the key statistics. Production level as at 2022, 1.8 million barrels per day. Revenue, $12.6 billion as at 2022. Our proven reserves, 37 billion barrels, and the natural gas reserves, 187 trillion cubic feet. Just as the Nigerian business terrain, because you can't feel a pain outside of where you are. The pain we feel as a nation is being felt by every other industry. So the challenges of the oil and gas industry is also mirroring the challenges of the economy. Regulatory uncertainties, as I said, frequent changes in policies and regulations. You know, when we hear of there's this issue of people are talking about subsidy, or the government is not telling us the truth, and they'll say today there's no subsidy, tomorrow there's subsidy. It is the uncertainty, it is the shift in economy that is making it seem as if government is not telling us the truth. Look at the other challenge here is price volatility. When in June last year, they mentioned that subsidy has been removed. Yes, the government was actually telling us the truth. Subsidy was removed because at that time, the global oil price came very low. It came very low, and the FX rate at that time could afford that we would buy petroleum products at the rates we were buying it when government was subsidizing it. But before you knew it, when they came out to announce, the global oil prices started rising. And then because we have let the dollar to float, that's the word, right, we used. As dollar was climbing, global oil price was climbing. The naira price of the petroleum product couldn't hold again. And government couldn't come out to say, look, oh, that promise I told you that no subsidy again, petrol is no longer 500 naira, it is now 800 naira. How many of you will not fight? I'm sure a lot of you will even off your shirt and say, no, under 1 month, you are coming to tell us price has changed. Because the factors are constantly changing. In advanced countries, most of them have only one factor, which is the global oil price. But in Nigeria, we are faced with two key metrics, the exchange rate and the global oil price. So both were working against the local price of the petroleum product at the same time. But the government could not come to say, look, we are allowing it to float. As at now, if you want to buy petrol at the rate it should be, we should be buying it for over 1,000 naira. Would you have paid that 1,000 naira if they said, come and pay? And that's what the government was trying to moderate, because they couldn't come out to say, look, now that we floated the dollar, we want you to be paying higher price on petroleum products again. So many things are happening that we are not aware of. So it's not like, I'm sure it's not the joy of the presidency to see, or the government to see people suffering. It is what it is. We pray God will continue to help us in this country. Infrastructure deficit is another challenge that the oil and gas industry is facing, just as the country. There's a lack of enough storage. Vessels are not there because vessels owners are not able to maintain their vessels. There's transportation issues. Truck owners are beginning to have challenges. Fueling the truck is now very expensive. On top of the fact that the roads are bad, every now and then they have to take their cars, their trucks for repairs and all that. Environmental concern is another challenge that the oil and gas industry is facing. There's growing pressure to reduce carbon footprint. And then there's also the opportunities that abound in the oil and gas industries are there, diversification, there's shift towards clean and renewable energy resources, the local content development. So the PIA that was recently passed, well, not recent again, it was passed in 2022. I hope I'm right, the law. PIA was passed into an act in 2022, right? Okay, so 2021, sorry. So it has enabled, the local content development clause in that PIA is really something, there's a provision for it that is really encouraging indigenous participation in the industry. Because before now, we know that the multinationals, the like of Shell, the Totals, that are fully participating, especially in the upstream. Now, there's provision for indigenous participation, they're encouraging in this indigenous participation. Gas utilization is another opportunity. There's expansion, the domestic gas utilization is expanding. I'm sure some of us have seen CNG buses, CNG power gen, LPG adoption rate is increasing. Those, our cooks, those locals that you see, hardly would you see any of them using firewood to cook again. Most of them are adopting the use of LPG. It means that there's opportunity in that part of the business. The oil and gas industry remains a significant contributor to Nigeria's economy, but like the economy, it faces various challenges. Let's move to the next slide. Okay, so now we move to what we need to do in order to be able to tap into some of these opportunities, which is the theme for this event, structuring business in a fast-paced world. Given the insight we've had into the Nigerian business terrain, it's just right for us to discuss how to position our business irrespective of the size. And I repeat, positioning our business irrespective of the size to tap into many opportunities that are bound in the economy. Because a lot of us, when we hear of structure, we only think of those large corporates, those big businesses. Structuring starts from where you are. Even if you're a one-man business, structuring starts from where you are. Sorry, can you hear me? The mic is gone. Can you hear me? Oh, okay. So let's quickly take a... Okay, you can hear me. Okay, so let's quickly look at what structure means in the context of business. By definition, structure refers to the framework that govern, manage, and operate an organization. I repeat, the framework that govern, manage, and operate an organization. So we're looking at three keywords here: governance, management, and operational. These three words are what structure refers. These are the frameworks that govern, manage, and operate an organization. When we talk of governance, governance is everything that has to do with the leadership of the organization. They can categorize the board of directors under governance, the leadership, the ESCOs of under board of governance. Everything that has to do with your decision-making process can be categorized under board of governance. This is a must for any organization, irrespective of the stage or size of your business. You do not have to necessarily go and start looking for people as board of directors in the immediate. You can even have it informally, because I'm trying to now take a sense of the legal way of incorporating a board now. As small business owner, you should have somebody that you look up to in that line of business or in another line of business that gives you counsel, guidance over your business. You should start thinking of what you want the business to be in the future and start practicing it now in a little way. So there's this guy that that fixes the inverter. He does inverter. He uses the lithium battery, not the dry cell battery. A young guy, very smart, very intelligent. And then I've had to refer him. He did something for my chairman. He fixed something for my chairman, so it was referred to me. I used him. I felt very comfortable with him. And I've had to refer him to 2-3 people. And one day he just called me. He said, "Ma, I want to come and see you." He came and said that he firstly wants to appreciate the referrals I've been giving him, but he feels that his business is going somewhere, and he just needs guidance. He wants me to advise him on what next to do. Of course, there's a textbook answer, but then he wants practical experience. And we began talking, and today it's kind of putting some structures in place. That's just a simple example of what I'm trying to say, that you do not have, as long as you have an incorporated company, even if it is a business name, start putting things in place that would ensure that you have structure at the end of the day, because you don't know where your business is going. I'm going to tell you one story before I end this presentation for you to know that you must start acting in a way, you must start seeing where your business will be in the future now. You must future-proof your business. Don't limit yourself to where you think you are now. I'm just selling bags, or I'm just selling yogurt. This popular Farm Fresh, not Farm Fresh, there's this popular, So Fresh. I'm sure you've listened to their story before. The woman started selling fruits in takeaway plates at Agege. Now So Fresh is everywhere in Lagos. I'm sure they've started expanding in Nigeria. It's because I'm sure one of the partners, or even both partners, thought of putting structure in place to future-proof their business. So as I was saying, it is important that you put in place these three governance, management, and structure. So we talk of, so on the governance, I was saying, the question I want to throw at you is, who provides oversight on your business? Who ensures accountability in your business? And then we talk of management. That's where we have organizational hierarchy that defines roles and responsibility. When Mr. Oloyede was reading the speech of Chlp, he mentioned something about Alpha and Omega. In my head, I was laughing. I said, it's like, I hope he has not seen my notes. The question is, are you the alpha and the omega of the business? You are the beginning and the end. Everything starts and ends with you. You think, oh, my business is so small, I must start it, I must end it. You must start putting structures in place to ensure transparency. It is when your business is transparent enough that you begin to attract ideas, you begin to attract investors into your business. All operations and activities, does it start and end with you? Even if currently you have an hierarchy in your organization and it is a flat one, it doesn't matter. Just put something in place. Even if there are no people to fill it now, start seeing it. Put that organogram or whatever in place to say, this is where I'm taking my business to. Although it is only one or two of us that are here now. In the near future, in the short or medium term, we are going to start filling in this place because we want to have proper accountability. We want roles and responsibility to be clear. And even for continuity purpose, it is important to have the structure in place. Then the third word, operational. What processes, systems, and controls drive your day-to-day activities? Do you have things in your business processing your business that can identify the risk that is in your business? As little as businesses like, okay, I'm doing delivery. Do you have a process for order to delivery? Or you just do it as it comes on a daily basis? You sell, maybe you sell shoes. Do you have a process that every customer that comes knows the process? Like I said, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to spend so much to put most of these things in place. But if you have the intention of doing it for the purpose of expanding your business, for the purpose of being transparent and attracting funding, investors, ideas into your business, it is important to put it. Like I said, some people think of structural governance as applicable only to large business. This is not true, because establishing effective governance is crucial even for small businesses, because every business, no matter the size, benefits from good governance. What are the benefits? You can see on the screen. Benefits of structure, I don't want to be too academic. Sustainability, of course, in the course of my discussion, I've said that. Scalability, it allows you to grow and expand efficiently. Risk management, you can identify and mitigate potential threats. Efficiency, structure brings about efficiency because it streamlines your processes and optimizes resources. Accountability, there's clear roles and responsibility. It reduces confusion. It's not Mr. A doing the work of Mr. B today, Mr. B doing the work of Mr. A tomorrow. And more importantly, it attracts investment, not just investment, financing into your business. When that guy came to me and he said this is what he wants to do, at a point he muted the idea of investing in his business because I saw the structure he was beginning to put in place, because I saw what I've even experienced with him. I was comfortable putting something down, joining in his business, because I believed in that business due to the structure I've seen that he has put in place. So when you have structure, it attracts not just ideas, financing, people will come and invest in that business because they know that the business is going places. You've laid the foundation for success. You've laid the foundation for resilience. Let's move to the next slide now. Still on this, the governance, why governance is important in business. Talking of governance, we still look at management board. When you have a management in place, these are their roles and responsibility. They bring about strategic decision making. So if you are thinking of something to do, thinking of how to do something in a particular way, the other members of the team think of how to do it in another way, and then it helps the organization to achieve its objective. Oversight of operations, risk management, their responsibilities, setting corporate goals and objectives, ensuring compliance with regulations. And then we come to the issue of board of directors, why it is important to have board of directors. Maybe when we talk of board of directors now, maybe this is for, oh, sorry, I'm rounding up now. Thank you. For objectivity purpose. And now let me quickly move to the story I want to tell you about the organization that put in structure in place and implemented a strong governance structure. I think, okay, just you can stay on this slide. Let me quickly read out this story to you before I now break it down. I quickly tell you, just give me 5 minutes more, I'll be out of here. So I recall the journey of a Nigerian entrepreneur, Mr. Abdulwasiu Showame, who founded an oil and gas services company, Prudent Energy and Services Limited. He recognized the importance of effective governance and structuring early on. With a strong management board and independent directors, the company implemented robust processes and controls, ensuring transparency and accountability. Through data-driven decision-making and a culture of continuous improvement, the company optimized operations, reduced costs, and enhanced safety. Under Mr. Showame's visionary leadership, PSL thrived, becoming an industry leader and attracting opportunities from all over. That's a summary. But let me quickly just, in 2 minutes, tell you the story. This company called Prudent Energy was incorporated in the year 2004. There was little or no activity up until 2021. First office setup was done in April 2012. I hope you are following my story. With about 12 staff, we had the CEO, who was also the supply and operations manager. We had the finance manager, that's myself. I joined that company in the year 2012. I was finance manager, I was HR, I was admin. Then we had IT because we had to use computer. Then we had the sales team. Because we're a trading company, that was the only team that had a full set of staff, like six people, because that's what we do. The CEO saw the need for us to put a bit of structure in place so as to have clear roles and responsibilities. At that point in time, we had brought in people, HR and all that, to design an organogram. After 1 year, we saw the need to expand into another location and state. In 2024, our terminal at Ogara in Delta State started operation, and our staff strength increased to about 60. That's in 1 year. But a year prior, he had seen that this business is becoming something I cannot handle again. We decided to put some things in place. As we're growing, we're investing in infrastructures and acquiring assets across the energy value chain to expand our business. At that point, we started paying attention to our structure. So we engage small firms. You know, we're still thinking, well, we are just like this. We're engaging small firms. Come and advise us. How do we put the structure in place? You know, just to accommodate our current size. 5 years into the business, our then CEO, who is now our chairman, just came out and said, I think I want to engage the service of one of the big fours. That's, you know, when I say big four, the consultants, for proper business transformation. At that point in time, he called in PwC to come and put proper structure and governance in place. Most of us in the team screamed and said, you know how much they will charge us? No, let's continue with these other smaller firms. There was initial pushback, but then because he's a visionary leader, he saw something we were not seeing. They came in. 1 year into the transformation, an opportunity presented itself for us to acquire one of the biggest petroleum retail companies in Nigeria. A company that started with 12 staff in 2012. 5 years into the line, an opportunity presented itself for us to... In fact, the consultants were still with us. They were just rounding up the transformation. That was when the opportunity came. The story of how the opportunity came will be told another day. Maybe I would see if I can, one of these events, bring the founder himself to come and tell the story. A very touching one. And that was because there was structure. Today, we are the only downstream company in Nigeria that has assets and infrastructure across the entire energy value chain. Our service runs from coast to homes. So we have vessels, we have storage tanks, we have land transports, over 600 plus trucks, over 600 plus retail stations. And that company today is Adova PLC. I'm sure most of you have seen some of our banners outside. This started from a company with about 12 staff. And I tell you, this is what structure can do to your business. Structure attracted financing support to the business to the extent that a company that started with 12 staff in 2012, under 5-7 years, was able to acquire a company with over 400 retail stations. That is the power of structure. Structure will position your business for opportunities that abound in a terrain that seems difficult to do business. With all the difficulties, you'll be wondering, where are you people getting the money from? It is not our money. It is a structure that is attracting investment, that is attracting financing into the business. The importance of structure and governance in a business cannot be overemphasized. Let's go to the last slide, please, quickly, so that I can just round up, because I know that's the picture of how we started and where we ended. Please go on, move to the takeaways. Just keep going, there's more time. This is how we leverage. So the recap now. The recap of what we've been talking about, this is the Nigerian, we've seen here that Nigerian business terrain presents opportunities and challenges. Effective governance and structuring are crucial for sustainability. Data-driven decision-making and strong management board are key success factors. What are our takeaways? Implement governance and management structure. Prioritize transparency, accountability, and sustainability. Embrace innovation and direction. So what are the next steps as we move away from here? The last slide, please. Take the first steps to building a resilient and sustainable business, no matter what stage of the business, the life cycle of your business. Embed effective governance and structuring into your organization's DNA. Join the rank of successful Nigerians that have embraced best practice. And lastly, let us work together to build a brighter future for Nigeria's business terrain. Thank you.
Wow. Wow. I'm sure you'll agree with me that that was a very, very wonderful session. Thank you once again very much, Ma, for that beautiful, beautiful presentation. 2 takeaways for me. Opportunities still abound in Nigeria. Regardless of the challenges, of the problems we have, opportunities still abound here in Nigeria. The second one for me will be future-proof your business. I'm going to keep that in my mind for a very long time and make sure to implement that. Thank you so very much once again, Ma. So quickly, we'll move on to the second presentation, and this will be by Mr. Courage Obadagboyi. I'm hoping I have pronounced that right, sir. Awesome. Thank you. Courage is the Chief Financial Officer, APM Terminals Nigeria, a position he has occupied since August 2021. In this role, he is responsible for the finance strategy and the execution of all APM Terminals entities in Nigeria, as well as San Pedro, Côte d'Ivoire, and Mauritania. He has over 20 years of extensive finance and leadership experience, covering areas like controllership, treasury management, risk management, commercial and project financing. He spent the first 5 years of his career at Lafarge Africa and the next 15 years at General Electric, working across multiple businesses, including the oil and gas, power and healthcare divisions, within and outside Nigeria, leaving as commercial CFO of the power division in Africa. Courage is a chartered accountant and member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, ICANN, and an accounting graduate of the Federal Polytechnic, Auchi. He holds an MBA from the Jack Welch Management Institute, United States of America, and is an alumnus of the Strategic Financial Analysis Program for Harvard Business School and a graduate of GE's renowned Experience Finance Leadership Program, as well as numerous functional and leadership courses over the years. Courage currently sits on several boards of the APMC entities within and outside Nigeria and is currently working on his induction into the Institute of Directors. With a warm round of applause, please let's make welcome Mr. Courage Obadagboyin. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you so much for having me, and well done to the staff and management of CHLP for putting this together. It will be tough to match what Abiola has presented so far, so I'll just do my best. This is my first time in this event, and I'm coming as CFO FD. Maybe in the third event, who knows? So, I think the moderator has done a good job of introducing where I work at the moment, APM Terminals. I'll just give a little context about what we do. It's a global company. We operate in over 30 countries around the world. And it's part of the global Maersk group. Maersk is probably more familiar to most of us, but they are sister companies belonging to a global group called APMM. What we do at APM Terminals is, you know, the way you have operators that manage airports. APM Terminals manages seaports, containerized seaports. And in Nigeria, our two main footprints are the Apapa terminal, as well as a terminal in WACT, West Africa Container Terminal in Onne. We also have an inland container depot in Kano. The reason why I'm giving this context is just to set the tone that by virtue of our role as facilitators of trade, we are in the forefront very much of seeing how trends are going before it is often felt in the market. We see how import and export volumes are going, what the mix is, what kind of goods and products are being shipped in and out of the country. So we are sort of like an early warning system to the economy, and we talk a lot with stakeholders in the economy to give them, you know, insights as to how trade is developing in the country. Now, what has been our experience over the last few years? We have all lived it, and I think Abiola has done a good job of summarizing the key economic indices that we are living through. She talked about the GDP growth rate. I think the consensus, even though official government figures have not been confirmed, but I think the consensus is in the late 2% to 3% range, which is quite modest for a country of our size and our population growth. But the good thing is that we are all living witnesses of a time when we were doing a lot better. In the early to mid 2000s, we were growing at 6 to 7% GDP rate until the financial crisis in 07-08, and we never really picked up to those levels thereafter. But the point is that it is doable. By virtue of my regional role, I also support our entities in Côte d'Ivoire, and that country, without oil proceeds, without oil exports, they are growing at a 6 to 7% GDP growth rate every year. How do they do that? Cocoa, rubber, plantain, cotton exports. That's what they do. Right now, they've recently banned the export of raw rubber and cocoa. Why is that? They've said they realize that they're not getting a fair deal from the exports. And so they've mandated that all companies involved in that value chain must set up processing outfits within the country to process these raw materials to a semi-finished state for export. That is what is happening now in Côte d'Ivoire, our next door neighbor. So it is doable, certainly, in Nigeria. The other thing we are able to observe by virtue of our position is that what is the export to import mix in Nigeria? For us, it's about 80 to 85% imports and 10 to 15%, about 15% export. That is the import to export ratio. In a country like Côte d'Ivoire, the reverse is the case. So there is, and to Abiola's point there, with our population size and growth, the opportunities are quite enormous for us to do a lot. One percentage growth in our export volumes would have so much exponential impact on the economy that is unimaginable. So that is about GDP growth rate. Certainly we can do more, and we will do more if all the stars align. And I can see a lot of, focus on the right policies in recent years that will stimulate GDP growth. Inflation was also mentioned in the 30% range, driven obviously by factors we all know about, supply chain disruptions, insecurity, and so on and so forth. But again, if things begin to stabilize on the exchange rate, demand and supply, that potentially could go down to, we didn't know we were living in the good times when inflation was 12 to 14% a decade or so ago. And we were comparing ourselves to countries that had single-digit inflation. But if we could go back to those good old days, in quote, of 12 to 14%, then that can give us a little breather to grow the economy a little bit. Now, why am I stating some of this? Another metric I would like to highlight is unemployment. It's depending on who you ask and how they look at it, how they bifurcate the numbers, it's in the mid-20s to 30% range, depending on who you ask. But of course, that doesn't factor underemployment, because there are so many people who are not on the unemployment market, if you will, but who are underemployed because they are underpaid for their day's work. Now, why am I highlighting some of these? Because it's not meant to be a message of doom and gloom, because in all of these, as we talk about structuring our business in a fast-paced economy, in all of these, if you play in any sector that is able to move the needle in any of these areas, then you have the attention of both the government, and you also have a large room for growth. For instance, look at unemployment. I was at one of our key customers, Fuani. It's one of our key customers at Apapa. And many of us may not know, they have what do they call it now? A plant, an assembly plant here in Lagos, where so all these electronics, you see LG Electronics, they have the agreement with LG globally, and they have the license to import and what's the word now? Assemble them here in Lagos. So I went to their plant, and with I don't know what mindset I was going with. I saw their process, their manufacturing bay and all that, and it didn't seem as sophisticated as I'd expected. It was very manual, plenty of people on the manufacturing lines and so on and so forth. And I was initially critical in my head. I said, this is not even automated, blah, blah, blah. But then I said, in this little facility, I probably counted about 2,000-3,000 people doing different jobs. This potentially could be your Yahoo and Yahoo Plus people that are working in this organization, right? So we know that the vogue these days, the in thing is automation, AI, and so on and so forth. And those things have their place. But for an economy like ours, where official unemployment rates is 30%, what does that mean? That means at least 60 million persons are unemployed. We need organizations like that are labor intensive. And even though automation and so on and so forth have their place, but if we are keen into sectors such as agriculture, manufacturing, that are high employers of labor, then we will be doing good by the economy. And we will have a run rate, an opportunity to grow because the labor rates are very favorable for manufacturing here in Nigeria. So it is not only talking about the cost of production, energy being high, and so on and so forth, but relatively speaking, our labor costs are fair and moderate. Of course, senior management labor is another thing, but the general workforce is available and moderately priced. So those are opportunities for us to key into in the economy. Now, talking about structuring our business in a fast-paced economy, what are some of the pointers for us? It is important just to build on what has been discussed previously in the previous slide. Governance, management, operational excellence, they are very, very critical. Now, speaking more broadly about how you set up for success in an economy like ours that is fast-paced, market research is very important. Many businesses get it wrong because they do not spend enough time or resources to understand their market. Not one size, unfortunately, fits all in the corporate world of business. So understand your market. And Nigeria is so diverse that it is not one market. The needs and preferences in the north, for instance, even the tastes of people up north is very different from what we have in the south. So if we are going to do your market bifurcation, your segmentation, be aware of that and adjust to it, right? Very important to create a very agile and lean business model. Abiola mentioned something about how they started with 12 persons. That 12 person was the right mix for that organization at that stage. Many of us make the mistake of setting rules and processes for the sake of rules and processes, rather than for the sake of business growth. I'll give you an example. I stumbled upon an Instagram page where there was this business that was setting up a parfait business. You know, this yogurt and fruits that is, very popular these days. And I saw in their promo that they were offering free delivery anywhere on the island if you order 3 products. I said, oh, that's great. Then when I looked closely, I saw that their office was very close to my wife's office as well. So I said, okay, let me do a surprise for her, the romantic man that I am. So I said, I'll order 3. Take 1 to my wife, and then take the other 2 to my office, also on the island. I know you offer free service if you buy 3, right? So deliver 1 set for me for free. The other I will pay. Whichever one you want me to pay, whether the one to my wife or the one to my office. What matters is that I pay for 1 delivery, and I'm ordering 3. Doesn't that look like a good deal? They said no. That their policy is that the 3 must go to 1 place. You see? For a small startup, that was very inflexible thinking. Now, it wasn't as if I couldn't afford the delivery. But I just felt, okay, this guy is not getting, he's a front desk side guy, he's not getting the context. So let me speak to your manager, even the owner. Let me explain to her what's going on. I'm sure she will see reason. I spoke to her and said, no, that's their policy. And I said, so, madam, you prefer to lose my patronage because of this, your policy which you built. What is the reason for your policy? Is it not to build scale so that your cost of transportation can be absorbed by the goods being purchased? Is that not the idea? I'm still buying 3 and yet you are still inflexible. So on principle, I refuse to patronize them up to today. So that is not the way to go. If we are startups, we need to understand why we are creating certain rules and not become slaves to the rule, right? Processes, like Abiola mentioned, org design, operational excellence, they are very, very important, but understand the reason behind them and be flexible, right? Also very important to leverage technology. Nigeria has a teeming youthful population. You talked about kids and so on and so forth. So if you are in business, leverage the power of social media, cloud computing technology, and so on and so forth. Very important for business growth. Capitalize on the high penetration of and mobile-friendly devices that we have. Our mobile penetration is very, very impressive. In our businesses outside the country, in Côte d'Ivoire, there is still a high usage of cash. Still very high. Something we have stopped in our business here in Nigeria. Even truck drivers, they have cards, they have mobile banking on their phones. Very high penetration, truck drivers. But in other climes, even in our neighborhood in West Africa, it is not as, we don't have as much penetration. So leverage that in your business as well. Very important too, and I'll wrap up now. Do not overlook strong regulatory compliance. Don't cut corners, because these things will come and haunt us later on. If there is a license you need to get, if you are in food production, get all the licenses, if NAFDAC, and so on and so forth. Pay a little to get advisory from Chlp to, to give you good legal advice. Don't skip that element, because they are very, very important. The cost of a legal infraction could cost you millions, or even hefty fines or business closure. So you don't want to do that. And also, don't be alpha and omega, that syndrome. Build partnerships, open up your business, invite experienced people to advise you, even in an informal or formal board. Very, very important. There will always be challenges. Outside this country, there are challenges, even in the most advanced economies in the West, in America, in US, so there are always challenges. What is important is that we create antidotes to those challenges. We are pragmatic, we are flexible, we adapt, and we'll continue to win and grow in business. A very, very focused on how we acquire talent. One of the big mistakes is when acquiring talent is nepotism, right? Don't crowd your organization with people from your village. No, don't do that. Be very, very objective in hiring the right people. That's one of the most fundamental mistakes you could make in business, hiring for sentiment or your in-laws and so on and so forth. So I'll wrap up here. I'm sure we'll look forward to hopefully more interesting contributions from members of the panel. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sir Mr. Courage Obadagboyin, for that amazing presentation as well. And from this presentation, I have been reminded that to avoid inflexible thinking is a good way to move one's business forward. So we'll quickly move on to the panel session now. And I'd like to mention that if you have questions, maybe from these two presentations. You can have them written down. We'll make time to receive questions. So to start the panel session, we'll have moderating the session, Mr. Oheji Emmanuel. Please, let's give him a round of applause. We're also having Mr. Oladeyinde Nelson Cole. Mr. Oladeyinde Nelson Cole is the General Manager and Legal and Compliance at Adova PLC. He was appointed Company Secretary by the Board of Adova PLC on 1st April 2021, and prior to this appointment, he had served as the company's acting secretary from 29th July 2019 till his appointment. Shortly after completing the mandatory National Youth Service Corps program, Deyinde joined the law firm of Rukyu & Co. under the tutelage of his lecturer and mentor, Professor Lanre Fagbon, SAN, where he gained practical insights into maritime law, courtroom practice, with keen interest in alternative dispute resolution, mergers and acquisitions, and development of legal strategies. While at Rukyu & Co., he actively participated in several transactions, one of which was a successful negotiation of various conditions of service and collective bargaining agreements between the Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, PENGASIN, operating within the Nigerian oil and gas sector, and Jagal, Niger Dock, and several other shipping companies. He was actively involved in the issuance of Adova's Series 1 bonds worth up to 22 billion naira as part of the company's 60 billion naira bond issuance program, and also led the legal team in the delisting of Adova's shares from the Nigerian Exchange Limited. Other areas of interest include regulatory compliance, corporate governance, dispute resolution, board administration, and management. Please, just a round of applause once again for Mr. Oladeyinde. We'll also like to call up stage Mrs. Abiola Uju once again for this panel session. And following after her would be Mr. Courage Obadagboyin as well. Thank you very much. A round of applause as they come, please.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you. I hope we're having a great time so far. It's been a loaded time already. And I think that would therefore mean that this session, even though it doesn't go as deeply as we all would have expected it to, I'm sure we have gotten quite a lot from our speakers already. But a couple of things I know would require emphasis. And I know that since the presentations were being made, when the presentations were being made, they may not have been able to emphasize some of those points as closely as they would have. So we would go deeper to have this conversation for a couple minutes. I don't know how long yet, but we'll just drive it a little bit forward. So one thing I think has been emphasized by both presentations we've had so far is talking about innovation, including the CHLP address, as a matter of fact. It looks like we all looked at the same textbook, right? We had individual preparations, but we went in to reflect that innovation is good. I think that was one lesson we got. You have to be creative. That's another lesson. You have to stay very close to the market. Watch market trends. Very, very important. Also, we saw another emphasis was the inflexibility. You need to remain nimble. You need to respond to what is happening. So I think we are going around the right direction already, and I read the room that perhaps that's one of the things we should double down on. I would ask Mrs. Babatunde Ojo to go first, to let us know something about we would check about financial models. Let us understand something, that if you are going to recommend to a business the right financial, you made mention of how important it is to manage the business and not make it look like it's a one-person affair. So there needs to be accountability. There needs to be transparency. You made mention of transparency. So if you're going to recommend a financial model for a business or to a business in Nigeria, considering how things are moving as fast as they are, what would that be?
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. Okay, so I would start by saying this is a very interesting question, especially at a time like this when the economic landscape is very volatile. So the direct answer to that question, I would say, is that I would not recommend any fixed financial model. Your financial model to adopt, any financial model you're going to be adopt must be flexible and adaptable, because the landscape is very volatile. It changes every now and then. So this is not the time to say you want to fix yourself to a particular model. Your model must be very flexible, must be very adaptable. Having said that, there are things you still have to do. You can't say because the landscape is very volatile, you shouldn't have things in place to do. You shouldn't put things set things in motion. So what we do, I'll just give you an example of some of the things we do in our own organization in times like this. So we have what we call scenario planning. Scenario planning involves you having several plans, several options, several alternatives. So I give you an example. When earlier this year, Dangote, we are into import of, we are into trading. For those who came last year, I've already introduced the business, so I don't want to bore us with that story again. But just a summary of what we do. We are into importation, trading, shipping, delivery of petroleum products, all ranges of petroleum products from gasoline, gas oil, lube, lubricants, LPG. We have vessels and trucks and all that I mentioned when I was speaking earlier. So our business is for trading. So when Dangote Refinery started operation, when we were informed that Dangote was going to start operation, we had to go back into our operating model, which of course affects our financial model, to say, what are our options? Currently, we do only importation, and then we buy some product from NNPC, that's PMS, because for now, NNPC is the only one that sells PMS. Option one is to say, continue importation. We kept that as an option. Option two is to say, Dangote only, when Dangote comes fully on board. Option three is to say, Dangote plus imports. Option four is to say, Dangote plus imports plus NNPC. And for each of these operating models, we designed financial models, meaning that we are flexible enough to adapt to any of the situation we find ourselves at any point in time. So the direct answer to that question is make your financial model very flexible. And then your cash flow management is very important. There's this saying that cash is king. This is the time that cash is really king. You must jealously protect your cash reserve. So I mentioned earlier that we normally buy FX. What we've noticed is that over the weekend, there are some very fantastic offers because some people want cash over that weekend and they are ready to sell to you at any point in time. So as a matter of policy, we've decided to always reserve some cash for weekend trading, not midweek trading. Midweek trading, we all get the same rates. we'll move funds into some account that we are able to move funds to whoever wants to sell. So they come and say, we want to sell FA taxi. We want the cash now, not on Monday. And then we're able to tap into that opportunity. We get very good discount over the weekend. And that's because we prioritize, we're able to manage our cash flow. We prioritize cash above asset or investment at that point in time. There are so many models that can be adopted. Also, you need to make sure that your forecast is short-term. This is not the time to say you want to run one-year budget. This is the wrongest time to say your budget will run for 1 year. Make sure your budgets are short terms, 3 to 6 months max. Even if it's 3 months, you have to continually go back and review and see that it still aligns with the current economic landscape. And lastly, regularly review and adjust to the changes in economic condition and your consumer demands. Thank you.
A round of applause. A round of applause. While Mrs. Babatunde Ojo was speaking, it just came to me that this was a master class on how to do business in a fast-paced economy. It was. Sadly, we may not be able to go as deeply as we would have loved, but this was just, you can go back, listen to what this on YouTube again, get other things, and the speeches as well, do that in case we are not able to go as deeply as we love to. And one thing she emphasized again is the flexibility. That's the point. And I think we all need to leave this room with that information. You need to remain flexible. It's one of the ways you can stay resilient and last long. I would have a Mr. Oladende come in now. And I'd like you to speak briefly from the point of management. Management from your point as your in-house, your legal compliance. You manage a lot of stakeholders in that space. You manage your in-house role, your relationship with external counsel, for instance, solicitors. And also, there's something very important you do also. You manage contracts. You ensure that everybody does what they're supposed to do and just follow through with all the expectations from your documentation and all of that. You manage stakeholders, regulators rather. So I want you to speak to that in case we are not able to come back to go deeply into that. Just speak as to management of these various stakeholders and the important transactions you manage. How does that work for you, and how does that experience help to keep the business solid and sustainable?
Thank you very much. One of the very key things that we should try not to take for granted, also like Mr. Courage mentioned, was, first of all, regulatory compliance. A lot of times we take it for granted. We sometimes find ourselves in situations, particularly for businesses, where a business owner, decides to take compliance for granted and says, look, we'll go ahead with it, But for us, it is our responsibility to continue to emphasize the need to ensure that there is compliance. Just like they said, you may think you've gotten away with it at some point, but guess what? They are waiting and they are accumulating your penalty. That's what happens. They're sitting back, waiting, and you'll be shocked. And then you receive a letter from a regulator who says, look, guess what? In the last 5 years, you have not complied. You then ask yourself, and then you talk to them and say, but you should have written me 1 year after. But of course, they would sit back. So, it's something that is very key. Yes, it is an enormous task, particularly when you have to also, sit with a board where, you have to give your own opinion, give your legal advice and all of that. But trust me, if you do not have a board, a sound board that would also appreciate corporate governance, that would appreciate regulatory compliance as well, then that company secretary or whoever is sitting there trying to provide that legal advice will have no voice, because that person probably is thinking, look, I have to ensure that I still have a job in here. Of course, the beauty of it is where we are coming from, for example, you talk about a board where you have, of course, you have a director, you have the executive directors, you have the non-executive directors, and you ensure that, look, you still have the independent directors who also serve, as a balance, as a check. So with all of those things, you're a bit comforted, that, look, even where you think you have people who are seated at a particular point who are not listening, you can easily fall back to an an independent director who has a clear mind to then say, look, these are my thoughts, and of course, who says you as a person, as long as you know that even if you're seated there, yours is to give the advice as a legal person. The good thing about it, and I'm sure there are lawyers in the room, they always say, look, do less of the talking and make sure you do the right thing, so that on that day, you would be able to bring it out to say, look, I advised on this. So it's been quite interesting, and of course, there is an interface with, I've talked about the regulators, and it is one thing that is very key to also help our businesses survive, is the relationship. It is very, very critical to have that relationship with the necessary regulators. Once you know the line of business you deal with, and of course, it's also been very interesting knowing that we also have our own external counsel, external solicitors, who also provide the necessary support when necessary. And I always try to advise, even in-house lawyers, that, look, do not always see yourselves as, look, I'm an employee of the company, and once I come out of law school, I want to look for that job. And I say, look, go through the rigors. You must go to practice. You must go and learn the ropes. Spend some good 5-6 years in practice before you come to this side, because that way you are then able to, go through all the various challenges you would find. Thank you.
Thank you. Amazing. One thing worthy of re-emphasizing is the part about regulatory compliance. Folarin alluded to that, or actually made mention about something around that earlier when we're talking about the speech. Depending on how far your organization wants to go, some of the things we're talking about may not apply to everybody. Depending on how far, so it ties down to vision, what the kind of opportunities you want to cash in on, as Mrs. Babatunde Ojo said during her presentation. Depending on how far you want to go, there are certain things you need to do. The right organization has to be established first of all, and also you have to keep compliance at the front burner. Some industries you want to enter, you cannot even sell a single product without going to meet the regulator first and ensuring that everything they say you keep doing. So it brings me to this point to mention that in event, compliance is a very, very necessary thing to keep a business growing, because you are not running away from regulators, you're not shying away from putting yourself in public and all of that. All right, are we still together? Okay. So Mr. Courage Obadagboin, did I get your name, sir?
80%.
Aish!
Which is a pass mark.
We're getting there. So let us talk about dollar-denominated transactions now. I think it's important. The realities on ground necessitate that we touch on that. Give us your own perspective and advice, if possible, what it has been dealing with dollar or foreign-denominated transactions, seeing how unpredictable things have become in the foreign exchange market.
Okay, thanks. First of all, I think when people look at an organization like ours from outside in, they assume a lot. They assume it's a multinational, and then we have a lot of dollar inflows because we are dealing with shipping companies and so forth. That is not the case. We are, in many respects, similar to the airlines, with a lot of landside, as we call them, domestic customers. because our model has two phases, what we call the oceanside customers. Those are the liners who come and berth at our terminal, and then we charge them for berthing and for handling. So there's some revenue that comes in USD, but the bulk of our inflows, our revenues are in Naira on the land side, where we provide storage and logistic services to our land side customers, our importers. So we are in the same boat as everyone else. Long story short is what I'm saying. So, and we felt all the pains, all the policy, the greater challenge, especially 2-3 years ago, were the policy changes and confusion. You know, we had to be super careful because you didn't know when you would be breaching any obscure policy issued out that you were not paying attention to. So in those days, we tried, you needed to be, as a multinational, be very careful so that you don't get into the press for the wrong reasons. And then the regulators try to make a name for themselves with you, right? So very clearly, we had to go through CBN-approved windows, I&E, and so on and so forth, even though the cash wasn't available at that time. But those were some of the things we had to do. And then we had to partner offshore brokers who had foreign positions, USD positions, and some of them were acting as agents for some agencies that were trying to move cash into the economy. So you would be able to, you know, consummate those transactions offshore and then pay the Naira equivalent to their designated partners in the country. So that's how we survived those days. But now that it's more or less willing buyer, willing seller, I think as Abiola was alluding to,
Yes.
you just make sure you line up enough reliable partners who provide you liquidity from time to time. If you know of any, you know, businesses that have USD positions, then you partner with them through a bank. So it's not, I wish I could come and say it's a very, there's one scientific, complicated thing we do, but it's common sense.
No, but I think you've actually hit the point. You have. Keep your eyes down, and truly, Mrs. Babatunde Ojo mentioned this earlier, actually. Liquidity is important, and then you stay close, keep your ears close to the ground. Sometimes it tells me that sometimes you have to apply a lot of street smartness. So, all right.
But if I may just add, but it's also very important where you can to do some natural hedging if you are able to, you know, push if you can get your suppliers to take the FX risk, pay in Naira where possible, and then let them go source for the dollars themselves if you are able to.
All right. Sadly, unfortunately, but maybe also for good, this is how far we can go with this. We would have loved to go deeper, but we have to end it here because we have other sessions lined up. And I must say a very big thank you to this highly esteemed panel. So without wasting further more time, we'll just make a brief presentation to our speakers. And okay, to Mrs. Babatunde Ojo. Thank you so much for participating with us with this. And Mr. Courage of Badak Boy. Is that 90% now?
I get it.
And last but certainly not the least, Mr. Nelson Cole. Thank you for joining us in this discussion. Thank you. Thank you. Folarin, can you come up? Please come up. Let's join for the photo op. Thank you. Let's welcome our moderator our MC for today. Thank you.
I'll just use the mic. Okay. Thank you very much for that wonderful time. Because of our time, we'll move quickly to talking about people who have helped us to put together this wonderful event, helping Nigerian business owners to do better, get better at structuring their businesses. So first, I'd like to mention Prudent Energy Services Limited, where we have Mrs. Abiola Babatunde Ojo as the Managing Director. We thank you very much, ma'am. And then we also have DOJ Gamings. I hope I mentioned that right. Awesome. We also have Rollard Properties and Allied Services Limited. A round of applause for them, please. Data Brooks Tech Limited as well. First Watt Renewables Limited. And last but not the least, Globus Empire Entertainment. If we go through our program, we'll find some of their services on these sheets of the program. So moving on, we'll go on to the session of the tech business structure, and everybody, whether a Gen Z or a millennial, is hoping to find some space in the tech space. Everyone wants to be called a tech bro or a tech sis this day. And to give us this presentation for the tech space is none other than Mr. Olumide Balogun. Yeah, thank you very much. I'll quickly read his profile and we'll bring him up stage. Olumide Balogun serves as the director of Google West Africa, where he spearheads the company's strategic growth and expansion in the region. His journey with the tech giants began in 2019, when he assumed the role of head of consumer applications for sub-Saharan Africa, where he played a pivotal role in the growth of Google first-party services and development of an Africa-led master plan that helped secure a $1 billion investment in Africa in over 5 years to support a range of initiatives from improved connectivity to investment in startups to help boost Africa's digital transformation. Prior to his tenure at Google, Olumide led teams of global tech brands like Microsoft, Nokia, and HMD Global across a variety of roles from product strategy, technical accounts management, developer and ecosystem development, to business strategy and marketing. Olumide's formal education includes an MBA from Imperial College Business School, London, certificate on sustainable business strategies from Harvard Business School, and BSc in computer engineering from the prestigious Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife. He was selected one of 12 top leaders by the African Leadership Talent Program at Gordon Institute of Business Science, Gibbs, Pretoria, South Africa in 2012. Please feel very welcome, Mr. Olumide Balogun.
I believe it's still morning, so good morning, everybody. Thank you for that warm response. For those who might be wondering why I'm wearing a mask, I woke up a little ill this morning. I'm not quite contagious, so you are safe. Okay. First of all, I want to start by thanking the organizers. It's always. How many of you paid to be here? Don't you feel like you should pay on your way out? With the kind of information that we've gotten, and you know, that's one of the things I really like. I really love about Africa and about Nigeria. People just don't understand how much they get for free. You know, if you're abroad, I tell you, you pay. People pay to go and sing praise and worship abroad. But here, we get things like this for free. And I think that's why, for me, I want to start by saying the most important thing is please apply something. Okay, it's all well and good that you come and you listen, but it's important that you apply it. Apply it. You know, I get asked to speak at a lot of events, and my team knows I try to do one event a month. If not, that's all I'll be doing. Like, I'll just be speaking at events. And the reason is because I think that, and I'm going to be a little controversial here, I do believe that somehow in Africa and in Nigeria, we've developed the habit to talk a lot and to do very little. And so that's why I always am very keen when I speak. And I want to thank the speakers. Please give them a round of applause. It's incredible stuff that they've shared. As a matter of fact, I think they've shared a lot of what I would share. I'd add a little bit as well. But one of the things I always talk about is how are you putting it into action? Putting it into action. I was meeting with the Nigeria Economic Summit Group CEO in my office last week or 2 weeks ago, something like that, Dr. Tayo, and I said to him, like, we need to do a little bit more to show how much people are doing from the talking. Because if not, we'll become very great at talking and we'll become very bad at doing. And it is only doing that gets us where we need to be. Talking about it doesn't get you there. Doesn't get you there. Planning about it doesn't get you there. It is only doing that gets you there. So hopefully today, I'll be able to share some things with you that you can take forward, you know, and apply. I was asking for Larry, I said, what is the average? I usually like a laptop because I'm a mover, but it's okay. You guys I'm planted here. I was asking him, what's the average size of the businesses? And he told me 20. Because, see, for a 20-person business, it's very different from even a 50-person business. It's very different from a large business. And I've had the privilege of being involved in different levels of business. You know, right now I run a really large business, right? So if I shared with you some of the things that we're doing, it may not be quite applicable. I mean, Google has if I'm not wrong, I think is $8 billion in cash. Somebody, I think Madam spoke about cash flow. If you're a business that has that much cash. During the time of a slowdown, you're more versatile. You can take more opportunities. But I still think that those are things that small businesses can learn from. As a matter of fact, I think that individuals can learn from. So I'm going to share a little bit about that today. The first thing I want to start, when I saw the thing and it said fast-paced economy, I was like, this economy is not fast-paced though. Huh? Maybe fast-changing, maybe it would be better qualified. But the economy is really, I think I saw an image once of the Nigerian economy, and I saw it in, somebody drew it like the Nigerian economy was in an ICU, intensive care, and that's really where we are at. No, I'm serious. That's really where we're at. Some of the numbers, I've already been spoken of, but let me share some other numbers with you. When you look at, when TBN has to take MPR rates up to control inflation, what it means that cost of funds is more expensive. What it means that businesses that have actually taken loans are going to most probably default on that loan. So you have a lot of bad performing loans or non-performing loans, depending on what you want to call it. And small businesses really drive the economy. And I think that that's one of the things where and I'm privileged to sit with policymakers and with government, even when I was meeting with the president last year, one of the things I spoke about was I really talked to him about, it's great that we try to go out and get businesses in, but it's important that we help the businesses here thrive. Because at the end of the day, that is really what attracts investments. When people, no one is going to invest in a country where they don't call one or two people to say, hey, what's going on there? How are businesses doing there? And I think that those are some of the things that are very critical for us. But having said that, a lot of the things that you hear about are things that you can't control. And I'm one of those people where I always like to focus on what I can control. So then the question is, what can we control? See, the economy is where it is. There are things that we can do to influence. We all have a role to play. I know we all look at the government, but we all have a role to play. And small businesses in particular, or small and medium enterprise businesses in particular, are very critical. I'll tell you why. 96% of the businesses in Nigeria are small and medium. 96. So businesses like Google or Zenith or, the big players, we're really a small percentage, right? They drive 85% of the employment. My wife has 2 small businesses. She employs, 15 people. See, those are the things that are critical. 85%, 56% of our GDP is small businesses. 56. It's bigger than big business. So the first thing I want to start by saying is, and if the average of businesses that are here are 20 people businesses, even up to 50 people businesses, you're very important. Everyone is important, but I want you to know that you're incredibly important. I'm so sorry, I forgot to start my timer. So somebody please let me know when I have 10 minutes and when I have 5 minutes so I can wrap up. I can dimension it in many different ways, but I really want to talk today about how do we structure for benefits. Okay? Because the first thing I want you to know is that nobody buys products. A lot of things that have been said were in my notes, and I might skim over them, but I want to talk about something that wasn't maybe spoken of, especially if you're somebody who's in tech. But if you're in any business at all, it really doesn't matter. I want to talk about structuring for benefits. What I mean is that the number one rule for business is that you realize that nobody cares about you. Your customers only care about what you do for them. And I think the problem some of the time is that we forget that. Keep the main thing the main thing. I always tell my team is, why should anybody care? Nobody cares about you. Nobody cares about your brand name. Nobody cares about... The customers care about what you can do for them. And if you keep your eye on that price, even especially in a slow economy, you will do well. So I have bad news and good news. Which one do you want to hear first? Bad news. The bad news is that by December 2025, between 60 to 70% of small businesses will not exist anymore. In the next 18 months, 6 out of every 10 businesses, I don't want to say in this room, so you don't start looking at the person beside you. 6 out of every 10 businesses will go extinct, sadly. On the current trajectory, where it could be worse. So that's the bad news. That's the bad news. You know what the good news? The good news is that there are actions that you can take. Are you sure? It's just 5 minutes left. Thank you. The good news is that there are actions that you can take that can mitigate against the risk of you being part of the 60 to 70%. And I'm going to talk about them a little bit. You know, Darwin says, Charles Darwin, he says that it's not the strongest that survive. You know this, right? It's not the most intelligent. He says it's the most adaptable to change. And I think, I can't remember if it was Courage who said this, about being able to, you know, your financial model is something that you should be able to evolve your financial model. So you have to be adaptable. And if there's one thing that I want you to take out from today, I want you to take out, how do I structure for benefit? How do I structure for benefit? I'm going to share 3 things with you that you should not do, and I'll share 3 things with you that you should do. But the critical thing is you have to think about, how do I delight my consumers? Because in a slow economy, what happens is that a satisfied customer is no different from a dissatisfied customer. It's no different. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of science around this. So you have to delight, not satisfy. So maybe I'm speaking specifically to tech, but it's something that I feel can apply even if you're a B2B business. How do you delight your customer? Because that's what's going to set you apart. So number one thing that you should not do, do not adopt a low price strategy. Let me tell you, it's one of the easiest things to do. It's a race to the bottom. I worked across hardware as well, as you heard in the introduction. And whenever there was issues like this, the first thing that we would think about doing is, how do we drop price? How do we eat into our margins? So those that survive do not do that. 2015, I invested in a business. It's a commodities trading business. And I 5% of the business, something like that. And the business went through a torrid time. I don't have enough time to take you through all the stories of the business. But long story short, at some point in time, my good friend, he's the CEO of the business, actually had real mental challenges, you know. The reason why I invested into the business, because I invest in people and I invest in value, and they were actually empowering 250 female farmers in the north. I was like, there's no way I'm not investing. Anyway, at some point, the business went through a very difficult time, and the major problem was that it wasn't structured. But fast forward, you know, last year was the best year for the business. We did 3 billion naira. This year, the target is 7 billion naira. Maybe one day dollar share, but it's still naira for now. And a lot of things that I'm talking about are things that he applied, right? A lot of things they spoke about. One of the things he will say to you is, the second you have a business that's doing 50, 30, get an accountant. Make sure you have an accountant. You know, like small business owners, you want to do everything because you don't want to, you're thinking small. Think like where you want to be, not where you are. That is how you get where you want to be. Okay, so number one is, don't adopt a low price strategy. But number two is that you don't increase prices as well across the board, because you can think about, how do I increase price so that I can cover costs? Be strategic about how you increase price. The one thing I would say is, do not increase price where you cannot increase value. You know, I said delighting the customer. See, Nigeria, let me tell you, is so, I say this humbly, it's so easy to be successful in Nigeria because businesses don't care about customer service. Do you know this? You know, you go to a business and they'll talk to you anyhow. So just imagine you could differentiate in that area. I always tell people, like, number one, get great with customer service. The person buys something, throw in a cake, throw in something that's 500 naira. The person will feel like the world. Delight. Ask yourself, are we delighting our customers? Because that is the only way that you're going to grow value for your business during that time. Okay? So remember I said, number one, don't adopt a low price strategy. Number two, do not do price increases across the board as well. Make sure that you only increase price where you can increase value. Okay? And then the third thing, don't be tied. Okay, let me say this how I wrote it here. Don't be discouraged if the business you end up with is not the one you started out to pursue. When I invested in that business in 2015, we had, I don't know how many acres of farmland. And then over time, we found out that it was easier for us to create value and make impact upper up the chain. So we moved upper up the chain. And last year, the business actually started doing packaged products and selling it on Amazon. That's not what the business started out as. We still want to support female farmers primarily in the north, but it was very flexible to changing the model of the business. So don't be tied and married. Think about how your business can evolve. Okay? So that's the 3 things you should not do. I'm conscious of my time. 3 things that you should do. Okay? Number 1, get your employees engaged in how we delight customers. No company has ever failed that delighted their customers. Let me tell you, none. If you can find a company that delighted their customers and failed, I'll shake your hand. None, just none. So, but you need to get your employees involved. The problem a lot of the time is that the people that really know how to do it, they are not in the executive boardroom. You have to involve everyone. Okay. Make sure that they are making decisions. There's so many things coming to my mind when I'm conscious of time, so let me move on. So get your employees engaged. Okay. Number 2, clarify what the purpose of your business is and why you are needed. Why do people need you? You know, I told you they don't care about you. Rightly so. It is your business to care about them, not the other way around. And some of the time, I feel like businesses, we get so, especially as you become a big business, you can love yourself, I love your titles, and you love your branding. Nobody cares. I start meetings by telling my team, nobody cares. You've drank the Google Kool-Aid. I Google, nobody cares. If you cannot tell me how you delighted a customer, I'm not interested. So clarify, what is the purpose of this business? Because when you go through a difficult time, you know, purpose keeps you going, not revenue. Purpose. Number 3, because revenue is important as well, cut costs. I don't need to go into this one. See, cut costs. One of the things that I feel that even in Nigeria we can do as individuals is we can better manage our costs. We can be quite wasteful, even as businesses. So really look at your cost lines and look at are all these cost lines contributing to customer delight? Not to exec or this, like to customer delight. Is it contributing? All right. The most necessary functions in the business are the functions that should be funded. I'm just being honest. You have to make some brutal. Everyone knows what's going on in the tech industry right now. I'm talking about companies that have $8 billion. Look at the top 3 most valuable companies in the world. Tech companies. They are cutting staff. I'm in meetings every day. People are helping me. But there's so much money. Why do we have to cut staff? It's a business. So you have to structure. Okay. And then the last thing that I would say is make sure that you're collecting data, the right type of data. Okay, don't collect more than you need, and be sure what you want to use the data for. So, you know, because when you collect data, what it helps you to do is to help you think about how you adapt that data, how you structure the data for the benefit of delighting your customers. But in the world of AI, which is where we will get there, I know a lot of people feel like Africa, we will get there. The question is, are you going to be at the forefront of that? So remember, you are important. Number two, there are things that you need to take and do. It's not going to happen by itself. Create structures that help you think about how you apply these things and keep yourself accountable to them. And I'll see you at the top. Thank you.
A round of applause once again for Mr. Olumide Balogun. Wow. This is truly a fully packed event, and I think I feel very tempted to say we will have an offering box outside at the end of this event. Thank you very much once again, Mr. Olumide. So just to mention to us that we're on YouTube, and should you have family members who are unable to attend physically but would like to be a part of this kind of wonderful events, on YouTube we are CHLP Law, at CHLP Law. Kindly find that out on YouTube and help send the link to them. We'll be going into another panel session right now, and to moderate this session, we'll have the partners at CHLP take this session. So I'd like to call on Mr. Folarin Oloyede and Mr. Oheji Emmanuel once again to the podium for this time. Joining them will be Dr. Dede Lori. Dr. Dede Lori trained as a PhD scientist at the prestigious Imperial College London, UK. This led her to having an illustrious career in the pharmaceutical industry for 15 years at international companies such as GlaxoSmithKline, Norjan and Koya Kirin International. Her passion for helping people motivated her to train in research and development, business development, commercialization, and analytics to ensure that life-saving drugs are made accessible to patients around the world. Currently, she has been focusing on her invaluable skill sets on the video gaming industry with the sole purpose of positioning Nigerian export players and indie game developers on the international stage. DOJ Gaming is a video gaming company that is constantly breaking barriers from being a female-led organization to overcoming hurdles which make it difficult for Nigerian talents to engage in global gaming events. Please let's put our hands together as we welcome Dr. Dede Lori. Last but not the least will be Mr. Olumide Balogun once again to join them on this panel. Thank you very much.
Okay, all right. I didn't need a technical education to put on the microphone, but technology technology at times. So we're at the tech session, and everybody here is into tech. Whether you like it or not, you operate your phone. That makes you tech, all right? You can clap for yourself. You're into tech. All right, so we'll start with Dr. Dede. There's this news development in the last 18 months, or even further, or maybe shorter, startups raising money. And after raising money, millions of dollars, we just get the update on Tech Cabal. XXX folds up or closes shop after raising this amount of dollars. So what's going on? What's your reaction to that? Because you're in that space too, and I know that you're raising money. So what's going on? What are the opportunities that lie ahead? What are the challenges that are now coming up? What are the chances for new startups to raise funds?
I mean, for me, I was very lucky because in my career, I wasn't just a scientist. I moved on to commercialization, business development, and mergers acquisitions. So I know firsthand from being on both sides what it is. I think in Nigeria, what I've noticed after running company for 3 years in gaming is that we don't know the international language of raising money. So in that condition, we're going to be coming from a place of, if the investor tells us that they want, I don't know, 8% of our money, we can't really combat that because of the lack of knowledge. But the more knowledge you have, I believe the more chance you'll be able to get a good deal for yourself and be more sustainable as a company.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay, you spoke a little bit now about what Dodge does. Okay, we'll be calling you DOJ initially, but you're Dodge. I know you're Dodge. So what's Dodge really doing in the gaming industry? You're a trained pharmacist. Am I correct?
Yes, I am.
All right. So, what drives you into the gaming industry? And there's a misconception about gaming. You know, in Nigeria, when you talk about gaming, everybody's thinking of, one shop like that and all of that. So, but I know it's a more complex industry. So, can you enlighten us really what Dodge does and why are you in the gaming industry?
Yeah, I guess it is a weird leap from pharmaceutical, how many years, to the gaming industry. But actually, in pharmaceuticals, there's things called gamification, where now there's health apps and everything that will make people understand their health better in form of like video games now. So not everyone knows that. But why I got into video games is because as a young girl, my dad always encouraged me to do what I wanted to do, even though I did science, which is a very traditional, I think, Nigerian occupation. But in gaming, everything I've learned in industry, so corporate structure, investment, is very applicable still from pharmaceutical to gaming. And actually, the regulation is a lot. But what I find interesting in Nigeria is that not many people understand the potential of video gaming in terms of the money that can be made. And I think we're talking about a fast-paced industry, but if people don't know about video gaming in Nigeria, then we're going to be left behind and everyone's going to be ahead. For example, do we know that there's a World Cup video game competition where the prize pool is $1 million? And the players in it, it's not like it's 60, it's 32 players. And what's stopping us from reaching that is actually access now to that event. So Nigerians are allowed to go, but it's a visa process. So I don't have a problem with the funding aspect of my business, because we're all self-funded. It's actually getting access to these competitions that can bring profit back and to Nigeria. So what we're doing is for the local community, we're giving them a platform on the international stage. So at one point, we're not just game lounges around Nigeria, which is there is many. There's also the esports wing where you can win potentially big money. And the final stage of our business is that we've got an indie game, meaning less than 10 people. And that game is going to be showcased at DreamHack Sweden with 40,000 visitors. And so every time you download the game, you're making money. So there's a massive industry there where traditionally in Nigeria, people don't take it seriously. So I think this is the time to pay attention and help the gaming industry.
Just before I pass the microphone to OAG for the next set of questions, I think you must have really caught people's attention here when you spoke about $1 million, because a lot of people now are encouraging their children to play football, because when they hear of Ronaldo's salary, hear of Messi's salary, they say, what? You can play football. So thank you for that. Thank you for that update. So I'll just pass the mic to you now, Emmanuel.
Okay, interesting. Let me leave the joke that came to my mind. So, all right. So, interesting thing that they were saying just now. But we'll come to Mr. Balogun right now. And he broke down what it means to start and run a business. He did. And he made it relatable. And yeah, if you want to clap, please. So, while our previous speakers spoke very important stuff and spoke to the large corporates and those ones in the room, he came down and he made it look simple for the person that is just starting. And that was very, very, very good. So the other part of what I'd like Mr. Lumide Balogun to touch on is about how the innovation, I will call it innovation space, but tech industry works, because innovation is a vital characteristic or feature of that industry. Things are moving really fast, new things coming up per second. And if you have an idea that has to start from somewhere and materialize, you have a lot of stakeholders you are working with. You are leading Google's work in this region. How are you navigating stakeholders? That is one important thing that I'd like you to speak to. How are you navigating your relationship and collaboration to stakeholders, particularly the government? Government, lawmakers, how are you navigating that? What is the story?
I think that, so the first thing is identifying the stakeholders, right? And the way that we identify stakeholders is we have a vision. Our vision is we want to be a technology tool that unlocks economic opportunity for Africans. Let me say that in plain English. If people cannot say how our products help them put food on the table, it is not a good product. Period. Whether it is a business, big business, like we work with big business, we work with small business. As a matter of fact, we just started a training boot camp called Hustle Academy. So if you actually go on my LinkedIn, you see the link. If you're a business anywhere between 5 and 20 and you want training, we actually do training. We've trained 5,000 businesses so far, and we're kicking off the new cohort in a few months. So we identify stakeholders by saying, who are the people who also have this as a vision? So of course, number one is government, right? The government wants to get to, the president has said we can be a $1 trillion economy by 2030. I believe that's possible. But it's not possible because we said it. It's possible because we do certain things, to back that up. So when we identify who the stakeholders are, they have to be people that we're going in the same direction. You can help the work that we're trying to do, and we can help the work that you're trying to do. So there's value exchange. That's the first thing. The second thing is that when we get into the engagement with government, we have to engage the right stakeholders, decision makers. So it's like I have very clear people who I have to meet with quite regularly. By regularly, it could be anything from once a year, twice a year, every other month. I was on the phone yesterday with the minister, for example, He has the Minister of ICT, Dr. Bosun, he has a very big, audacious goal that I like and I think that we can contribute to. So we come into that conversation saying, we know what you're trying to do, and this is how we can help contribute to that. And we put very clear actions that we hold each other accountable to. I've been in this thing for a while, and this is actually one of the first governments that's very clear on KPIs, like key performance indicators, right? What are we trying to drive? What is going to be the impact of that? So we engage on that level, and so far it's been okay. Let's put it that way.
Mr. Balogun trying to be modest. Please, a round of applause. A key thing, collaboration. I think we are aligning, and our thoughts are coming around the same location. We are anchoring around the same location. From the beginning to this very point, I think all speakers have really been on point. Stellar performance.
Can I just add something? Sorry, I know you're rounding up that I think we can apply as well. I think someone said this as well in terms of collaborating.
Yes.
Like, don't try to be an island. Like, even as a small business, you need to find people who are, who you share a common goal and a common objective with. That's other than making money. Don't get me wrong, making money is important, but you have to solve a problem to make money. So find somebody who is trying to solve the same problem you're trying to solve and collaborate with them.
Touché. All right, Folari.
Well, I wish we had the time, really. There are a lot of questions on my mind that I want to ask here, but we'll just leave it at that so that we can fully exhaust everything we have planned for this conference. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It wasn't easy. I must say, it wasn't easy to secure his attendance. He's a very busy person. Thank you so much for being here. I think we'll just do the presentations now as we move to the next. All right, Dr. Dede Lori, thank you so much for your contribution as a speaker, as a panelist in this conference.
When you come for an event like this, that's fully packed, and it is free, I'm sure you wouldn't get tired of clapping. So once again, please, let's put our hands together for this wonderful panel session. Before we go into the next agenda, I would like to help people network during this time. You might be sitting next to the next Dangote, the next Otedola, you never know. So in the next about 5 minutes, please move around, meet people, take a selfie, discuss 1 or 2 things you have learned from this event. So please make sure to meet at least 1 or 2 people at this event. So your time starts now. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Please, let's begin to settle down. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We can begin to return to our seats now as we go into the next session. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Please settle down now as we go ahead in the conference. Okay. Please, let's settle down, ladies and gentlemen, please. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Please, let's return to our seats as we continue in the conference. Please, let's take our seats now. Please, I'll kindly ask that the ushers bring people back into the hall as we continue in this very last session of the conference. Okay, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for staying the course up until this moment. I'm certain we're having a very wonderful time at this conference, and we're going to make sure to implement everything we're gaining and learning and gleaning from this wonderful event. Okay, please, I kindly ask that we all come in to the hall as we continue in the conference. The real estate sector is a very interesting and wonderful one that everyone wants to make sure to learn something from. So we wouldn't want to start this session without everyone being seated. So we kindly ask that we all come back into the hall as we continue in the conference. Thank you very much. Okay. Like I mentioned earlier, the next and the last session for this wonderful event is the real estate sector. And to bring us a presentation for this session is none other than Mr. Olusanjo Stephen Fawole. Please let's put our hands together for him. Olusanjo Stephen Fawole is a seasoned professional in the field of estate management with over 2 decades of experience in the real estate sector. He currently serves as a partner in the prestigious firm of Ubosi Ele & Co., estate surveyors and valuers. Before joining Ubosi Ele & Company in 2006, Olusanjo worked as a management surveyor and branch manager in the Lagos and Yola offices of the firm of Dia Fatimilehin & Co. During his tenure at Dia Fatimilehin & Co., he gained extensive experience in property management and valuations and rose through the ranks to become the Yola branch manager before joining the current organization. A multi-talented valuation surveyor, Olusanjo holds a master's degree in housing from the University of Ibadan and is a fellow of the Nigerian Institution of Estate Surveyors and Valuers. He is also a registered member of the Estate Surveyors and Valuers Registration Board of Nigeria. Additionally, he has served as a member of the MCPD Subcommittee and Education and Research Technical Subcommittees of the Lagos State Branch and the National Body of the Nigerian Institution of Estate Surveyors and Valuers. He is also a member of the International Real Estate Federation, FIA-BCI. Please let's put our hands together as we welcome Mr. Olusanjo Stephen Fawole.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I think it's safe to say good afternoon now. We've had a wonderful session, and quickly I'll be running through a few things. But before I run through my slide, I may sound a bit controversial in some of the statements that you see. I'll read out some of the data. Incidentally, we had Abiola who actually reeled out a lot of data for us, as well as a guy from APM. So I'll do much to just try to dwell on data that has to do with real estate, say a few things about them, then look at the potentials and the opportunities that are available. Let me start by saying, please can you go to my, okay, great. All right, so I'm sure for everyone who is seated there and see this statement, some will be saying, God forbid, this is not me. I mean, yes. You know, a man is not a man until he has a house of his own. No matter how religious we may try to be about this, and no matter how we may want to be spiritual about it, I know somehow in the heart of everybody who is seated here, whether you own a house of yours already, or you're in the process of having one, or you don't have any yet, I'm sure this dream is going to be one of the greatest dreams. As a matter of fact, I've had the privilege to speak in places, and one of the things I usually say to people, that one of largest or greatest investment a man will probably do in his life is that of owning a property. And so, because it is very significant and it is very, very important to us, especially in this side of the world, so it's important to take a keen note on this. And let me also thank the organizers of this event. I think last year I was here, the first session, and it can only get better. And please, let's put our hands together for them. You can actually do better. Please put your hands together for them. Okay, thank you. So I'll just try to, because of my time, I'll try to look at the data around real estate, and I'll try to delve into what you call the elephant in the room, which most people don't like talking about. And that's why I said, for the lawyers, we have the lawyers here, and so we're going to be challenging our hearts. So Mandela said, a man is not a man until he has a house of his own. I don't know how true this is to you. And unfortunately, please, can you go to the next slide? So let me just reel out a few things. I'm going to talk about what housing is, and not to bore us too much about what housing is or what it is not. I'm sure we just know what housing is. In layman's language, having a roof over what? Over your head. Now, it's not just having a roof over your head. The question also arises to say, what are the kind of roof, or what is the kind of roof that you do have over your head? Because that does also matter. So the United Nations, according to them, said fundamentally, housing is something that is fundamental to every citizen. Every citizen. And so that's why I said earlier on that, there are indices, there are indicators that the United Nations uses in measuring, not just the United Nations, but even Nigeria, to ensure that we look at the growth, we look at the GDP, we look at every other factors. Courage had said a lot. Also, Abiola said a lot about those data. So let's look at the data. I'm not going to go to all that United Nations said, but let's go to the data, please. Just go to the data page and let me say a few things there. Not this, just go. Okay, please, just go back. Go back, yes. Now, it's important for me to bring to our notice or to fore what is the state of the markets today in real estate. I know a few of us may probably just laugh over what happened recently, a couple of weeks ago, when the Commissioner for Environment in Lagos, right, led the team to ensure that people will stay under the bridge at, what do you call it now? Dolphin, right? And you wonder how people stay in places like this. Before you begin to mention or before you begin to say these are miscreants or these are people who are not important, I want you to notice that this guy is paid 250,000 naira in a demarcated under the bridge. I'm sure we're aware about that. 250. Now, this bridge was demarcated to about 80 units. 80 units. And each person pays as much as. Now, before you begin to look at it and also say, what is 250,000 naira? 250,000 naira is a lot. So let's go on because of my time. I just want you to understand this. As a matter of fact, please stay here 1 minute. This became very serious to me because recently I traveled and this issue became some sort of prayer point. You understand? Some sort of prayer point. Let's go to the next slide, please. Okay, good. Whilst I'm going to be talking about a lot of data I've been giving before now, I'm going to reel out data that has to do with real estate, and so we'll look at the opportunities. Quickly, let me also mention that a few persons had actually made efforts, individuals, corporate organizations, to ensure that we have, house over your head. But let's look at this. In 2022, The population of Nigeria is estimated to be what? 223. And I'm going to give you a data that United Nations, Abiola mentioned it earlier on. By 2050, the population of Nigeria is estimated to be 400. It's going to be what? 400. So if we have less than 250 million who currently are not being housed, so the question you may begin to ask yourself, what happens in 2050? How many units of houses will we need in 2050? Let's go on. Now, the population growth, somebody said something about that earlier on. Very good, we talk about the economic growth. That's fine. Look at Lagos, economic growth of Lagos, and Southwest is also there. Look at the urban population increase. Now, we have about 52.75% of people in the urban areas. And that's why you see that it's easy for somebody to go stay under that bridge, because there are no accommodation to house those people. Now, the other thing you look at here is that 23 of only 1,000 persons are only able to afford a house over there. What is the housing stock we have in Nigeria? 10.71 million. What is the requirement that we need? And this is where investors, this is where I'm going to be talking about what investors should be looking at. What are the opportunities? I've actually spoken about the fact that the population growth is going to move from this figure to about 400 million in 2050. 23 of those people currently have houses over them. Now, what are the requirements that we need? Currently, for us to meet the housing need in Nigeria, we need to produce 700,000 housing every year. How many of these can you produce? You probably are an investor, you've done a little as much as you've done, but the question is, how many have you done? Recently, I think about last week, the Lagos State Governor, commissioned 240, if I'm not getting that figure wrong, 140 or 240 units of housing in Igando. Couple before then, the governor of Sokoto State also did about 130 units. We're talking of needing 700,000 housing units. And we need about 2,000 to 3,000 units every year to be able to meet up these targets. So currently, what we are doing is not up to 300 per annum. So you can see the opportunities are there in this sector. Please, can you move on? Okay, so now we'll go back briefly. I'm trying to, this data is important. The overall housing sector has immense positive multiplier effects. I won't spend time to go on that, but look at this figure. This contributes about 6.60 to our GDP in the Q4 of 2023. And compared to England, where you have 16%, in the United States, you have 16.7%. Please go on, let's see those data. Only about 10% of Nigeria who want to purchase a house has the capacity to do what? To do so. Compare this with the United States of America. How many? 72% in America, 78 in the UK, 60 in China, and 92 in Singapore. Please go ahead. I want to just look at what, let's go on. Okay, so please, go back, please. Just backward one, please. Yeah. Based on the quantity and the standard of our present housing stock, it is obvious we have a huge deficit, estimated to about 17 to 22 million units. There was a time the Minister of Environment, the Minister Fashola, questioned this figure. Now, let's look at what we can do. Go ahead, please. So, the fact remains that the problem remains unsolved. But we can tap into these opportunities. Getting worse with our large population growth rate. I've said that earlier on. The youthful population, people are leaving the rural area to come into Lagos, come into Port Harcourt, come into Kano and the cities. The major issues are availability does not meet minimum standard. Please, let's rush our 5 minutes to go. Now, two things I'm going to mention, and I will try to wrap up, which is a key problem. penetration of mortgage in Nigeria is so low. So low that almost everybody who buy a house in Nigeria, you use all of your money to buy it. I was in Halifax a couple of weeks ago and I was speaking to a realtor in Canada. And he told me, of course, we all know this information. All that you need if you're buying a house in places like Canada or the United States is a 10% of that amount. So, for example, if you're buying a house for $500,000, all you need is 10% of that figure, and you pay your agency fee, then the rest is spread over 30 to 35 years mortgage. But in Nigeria, 90% of the sales or the property, you buy them using your money. And this is a major problem. So the issue of mortgage will remain a problem until, and we do something about it. So I said 100% paid out of purchase funds for closure. So this makes, so you can see now, and so now it means that for investors who want to invest in property, they probably do something that, no investors want to go into investment and don't make their money immediately. So they want to go to the high-end property. And as such, you see properties are empty, Ikoyi, Lekki, and all the rest. Please go on because of my time. Now, this is the big elephant in the room. And permit me to just use 3-4 minutes to talk about this. And I challenge the legal people here. Nigeria operates the Land Use Act of 1978. I was just probably a year older before that act came into being. And so you can imagine that we still operate this law. Hence, it is impossible to make headway in the housing sector if you're going to mix or fix the gap that exists in the housing sector. This is something we need to look at. Absence of titles. For Larry and Emmanuel, I'm sure you know, you do all of this stuff. Only about 10% of properties in the whole of Nigeria is titled. Widely put, maybe less than 20%. So it's a major problem. Please go on to the next slide. Affordability. Minimum wage in Nigeria is, how much is it? We're still, and you know the funny thing about, when I talked about the absence of title earlier on, and I look at, unfortunately, I look at how we were able to pass the national anthem bill so fast, and this has been there for over 45 years. Even every year you talk about the electoral law for you to have better elections. So why are we finding it difficult to do something about this? So affordability, minimum wages, this. Now, over 70%. See, all this data I put mildly, honestly. I know this is even questioned because this is, I said over 70. It can go as much as 85% of citizens living below the poverty line. Now, look at the average cost of a property. Just, you can use a calculator. If you want a good house in Lagos today, a minimum 3-bedroom flat, this is what it costs you. I chose not to put it in Naira so that it's not, so that, I chose not to put it in Naira so that you find it a lot easier. But this is about, if you're going to get a 3-bedroom flat, it will cost you about 105 million to get a good 3-bedroom flat. A good 3-bedroom flat. And this is a country where all of this money must come out of pockets, not mortgage. Sorry to say, even all the commercial banks that will claim that it's mortgage-based, what is the tenure? I just told you about Canada, that you can do as much as 35 years. So it applies that you stay in a good property, your monthly rentals goes into acquiring the property over a 35 years period. And as a matter of fact, you may decide to bring it down to say, see, I don't want to do 35. I want to do 27, 20, depending on how much you're willing to pay or ready to pay. Now, let's go to this. Government effort at housing is like a drop in the ocean. So if government effort is like a drop in the ocean, so the question is going to be, what is the effort of every individual who are interested in going to real estate? Less than a drop in the ocean. That's probably what it's going to be. All right? Expensive, high-end developments. So investors are no longer interested. I mean, I told you, just came back from vacation and I saw housing units as much as 200 flats in a building going vertical. I'm wrapping up, okay? All right, so let's just go. So, but yeah. Now, with cost of funding, this all goes into the mortgage I said earlier on. But I will try to wrap up with what I feel the opportunities are. And because this program is a conference that is very key, I tried to look for what was the current government plan with regard to housing, especially on the issue of this title. And this is what Tinubu has to say in his manifesto. Okay. He said, in conjunction with the National Assembly, the state government, we will review and revise the Land Use Act. We need to streamline and rationalize the land conveyance process. In this way, we will lower the cost and delay and promote more efficient use of land. This more efficient allocation will bolster the housing industry and lower cost for investors and consumers. I wish they're able to go back to this policy document that they had before the election and see that if we're going to make way, if we're going to ensure that we unlock this industry, this elephant in the room must be addressed. This issue of title must be addressed. Because if you don't have the right title, it may be difficult for an investor to want to invest in real estate. It may be difficult for you yourself to be willing to involve in real estate. Recently, we heard about demolitions here and there, lack of all of those stuff. These are some of the challenges that we do have. So, ladies and gentlemen, there are opportunities inherent in urgent need to deepen mortgage penetration. There's a need for us to address, again, these days we import people from other countries to come and help us to build because we have people who are no longer interested in building. You even see people tell you that just to lay a tile, I had been on a project that possibly the guy who laid the tile was brought in from Italy and spent 6 months in Nigeria to lay these tiles. So you can imagine how bad it is. So ladies and gentlemen, there are opportunities in the real estate industry because we have 2,000 to 3,000 to meet every single year. We have 700,000 to meet annually. And if this is going to be done, it means that we must unlock it and ensure that we speak to the government and ensure, especially, that the elephant in the room is addressed. Because come 2050, we are going to be dealing with a population of 400 million people. Thank you very much.
Wow. Thank you very much, sir, Mr. Olusanjo Stephen Fowley, for that wonderful presentation. So quickly, we're going to the last panel session for this event, and I'd like to bring up once again Mr. Folari and Mr. Oheji Emmanuel. Please, a round of applause for them as they come again. Joining them on this panel session is Mr. Dotun Oloyede. Mr. Dotun Oloyede is an Oxford-trained real estate expert with a track record of helping over 3,000 individuals achieve their property and investment dreams in Nigeria and beyond Africa. He leads a team of seasoned and purposeful professionals in Nigeria and UK with over 1,500 realtors and more than 35 established estates to this credit. An excellent leader who has desire for building people and helping them maximize their potentials. In 5 years of leading Rollard Properties, the company has delivered real estate solutions to over 3,000 customers in Nigeria and beyond shores. With more than 5,000 plots sold and 160 housing projects in the works, Rollard has created over 1,000 direct and indirect jobs within the period. Please let's put our hands together for Mr. Dotun Oloyede, although he'll be joining us
Joins us
virtually. Thank you very much. We'll also like to invite back Mr. Olusanjo Fawole on this panel session. Thank you very much.
Okay, so, all right. Thank you all for staying back till this time. I was initially scared that people will eat and go, but but it's a delight to have you all here, and we're happy that you are delighted. Okay, so we're moving into the conversation on real estate. You know, as a lawyer, I'll tell you the truth. If a lawyer is not doing real estate, he's going to be missing some fees, so to put it. But I will start with you with a question. Okay. Yes. So I'm starting with Mr. Olusanjo Fawole. Why do we have almost everybody here has a personal contact with a real estate company? It's either you've gone to them or they have come to you, one way or the other. They seem to be everywhere. But why are there no houses? You would think that with the increase of real estate companies everywhere, everybody's doing real estate. Why is the problem of housing, it's even growing? Because I think the data you quoted last year was more friendly than the one you quoted this year. So why are real estate companies increasing, multiplying, and houses are not increasing?
So why are you? I should be asking all of you. All right. Okay, thank you. You see, in this part of the world, because we do what you call incremental housing, so at some point you will definitely have contact with real estate people. What do I mean by incremental housing? I said earlier on, someone may say, God forbid, when Mandela said, you are not a man if you don't own a whole house of yourself. So every individual wants to own a home. So the next thing is going to happen is, I speak to a real estate company, I could get a land somewhere. I'm sorry if I call any place, please don't be angry. Because you're just like, why am I not using other areas? Maybe you, God help me. You meet someone and you said, I just need a piece of land. I don't have a lot of money. I don't have 105 to buy a property, but I need a house over my head, right? And so I meet a realtor which shows me a piece of land at Ayobo, and says this land is 10 million naira. You struggle and struggle and struggle to raise this money to just buy. As a matter of fact, you just try to save this money every month, right? Some can actually pay that money as much as 5 years. 5, 7, 10 years. And as a matter of fact, I've been on radio station and somebody called in and said, with all of my investment, despite all this I did, I was still swindled. So it's not far-fetched because everybody wants to own a house over them. Every single person. I told you recently I traveled, and even just being in Canada, I had to reach out to somebody and say, see, what's going on here? I want to do something, right? So everybody, and don't forget we're talking about population here. talking about population. Do you know the number of people who stay in Lagos? Do you know, mildly, we don't even have data of the number of people coming to Lagos every day. I'm telling you the truth. Like, you see this data you see here, these are just, you don't know the number of people who come into it. Some people just leave their home, wherever they are, but going to Lagos, everything will be well. And so that's why you see the issue that somebody, I mean, you pay 250,000 naira to just demarcate an under bridge and sleep there. No lights, no water, you just sleep there. So I think the issue, it will always be there because it's an industry that has a lot of needs to be met. And as such, there's always been an interaction with the realtor, with the real estate person. I mean, somebody wants to sell his father's house, he's also a realtor. Somebody wants to sell his uncle's house in the village, he's a realtor. Somebody has his grandfather property in Badagry, he said, I want to sell. He's also a realtor. So at some point, you always have contact with them. But like I said, one of the speakers said, you go for it because it's cheap. At the end of the day, it becomes a problem. Look, that's just way to answer that.
Okay, I think Oyeji has a question for Mr. Oloyede.
Okay, to recognize again, Dotun Oloyede is joining us virtually. He couldn't make it in person here. So we want to consider what real estate companies are doing. Dotun, this is not to put you on the spot, okay? This is not to put you on the spot, but we would like to get your perspective. Let's know what you're doing, what your plans are. It happens that you are the only real estate company represented here, so I know you came prepared for this, by the way. So we see that we see that you're trying your best to solve the housing problem. But it looks like we are still, most real estate companies still get stuck in selling land. You're selling land, and what Mr. Fowley just even mentioned is that you struggle to buy that land. Building on it is a whole different process altogether. So those are some of the issues on ground. So land sales are going up, but houses, actual houses, are not really showing up on them. What are you doing in that respect, or what do you advise should be done in that respect?
Okay, thank you. I don't know, can you hear me? I'm not quite sure.
Yes, loud and clear.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you, Emmanuel. And let me just start by saying a very big thank you to the organizers, Mr. Folarin Oloyede, and the CHLP team for having me. And also my apologies that I could not join in person. It was really, really unavoidable. I think it would be unfair for me not to jump in on the first question you asked, and you asked Mr. Sonjo, and also to acknowledge all the speakers have been part of the program from the beginning. And I will jump on that, and I'll also answer your question all together. And the data that Mr. Sonjo ended his presentation with, saying that the population projection is going to be about 400 million in 2050, is a scary one, because what that tells us immediately is that we cannot continue to do things the way we are doing it. And Nigeria is a place where we always have information and data. And unfortunately, we still end up living in the moment. We still are always reactive. Things still catch us unawares. And that has to stop. You see, that problem is not just developer. There are three faces to that problem. There are three sides to it. Number one, there's the government side. There's the developer side. And there's the people side. When I say the people, I mean the buyers, the people who use this real estate. There's a side of that. You see, the government side, government is supposed to be a regulatory body. But in the last few years, you have realized that government has become competition. And in a field where government is supposed to be regulating, there are also kind of players in that industry, in that field. And that's a problem. That's classic conflict of interest, really. Imagine a football match, and all of a sudden the referee starts playing with you, and when you get the ball from the referee, revenue close the issue against you. So it's like that. And the job of the government is to regulate. And I think another key problem here when it comes to government is that the process of regulating sectors is also considered as ways of generating revenue for the government. And this is also a big conflict of interest. And that is why a whole lot of things happen that shouldn't happen. Sometimes you say people are influencing the government, but I think the government sometimes also make the room for people to come and penetrate, for corruption to set in. That's why you see people dodging approvals. You see people not getting their titles right. It's chicken and egg. Yeah, there's a government part, because if you tighten that loop very well and you focus on regulating, then you will see that those things will stop. And when you come about the government side again, you are looking at, this is a country where development precedes infrastructure. Recently, I was elected the National Organizing Secretary for the Real Estate Developers Association of Nigeria. And in one of our meetings, somebody said there are plenty development companies, but there are little development. And we all laughed about it. And it's true. Because on the developer side, there's really no barrier to entry. Really, anybody can float to shop today and say that I'm a developer. You don't need a title, you don't need any certification, you don't need any license. And it's a shame, really. And that's why a lot of charlatans have penetrated the sector, and every Tom, Dick, and Harry can be a developer. You can be one tomorrow. All you need to do is just register a company, and you're good to go. And that has, created this perception that there is a lot of real estate companies, but there are little development. But let me correct by saying that there are very few real estate companies. It's just a whole lot of people trying to survive, or see that this sector is booming. I just open shop and I start practicing too, and that's why that is. And on the developer side, we have to. The problem now is everybody's doing the same thing. Everybody's trying to play in the same area, and everybody's looking at other options, other creative ways of creating solutions. Mrs. just said something that building vertical. Everybody's doing this. Innovation has to come in on the developer side. Let me give you an example. We started a project 2 years ago. It's a 1,000 house unit project in the city of Mowe. And you realize that the way we designed it, cooperative comes in, government plays a role, we also play a role. We're ready to develop, we bring in this cooperative, Federal Mortgage Bank is ready to give them funding at a mortgage that's as low as 6%. But the shocking thing you realize, and this is taking me to the people side, even though the mortgage is available, affordability on the part of the people is even a problem. A lot of people can access mortgage, but they are not qualified to get the mortgage. Maybe because their hand per month is not enough to service the mortgage, or maybe their years of service remaining is not enough to service the mortgage. So there's a whole lot of issues here and there. And if you want to go to the solution side, you ask the question that what are we doing? We are building a 1,000 house unit project that we think can, in a way, reduce the housing deficit in Nigeria. The scale is good. We're doing mass housing, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom bungalow flat. And this is our own way of making sure that we impact society, we reduce our housing deficit. Government, through mortgage, ready to back up to work with us. And the people side. And let me say one thing about a whole lot of people not having the houses. I think people need to quit the arrogance. One thing that I realized when we launched this project is when you take people to this site and they see the houses, they see what we're trying to do, they see the size, they see it's an affordable housing. You'll be shocked. Those who don't have money are the ones that complain the most about the size. I'm wondering that, do you really want this house? What's with this arrogance? You don't even have money. You are trying to So I used to say that we need to quit this arrogance. I need to embrace that you need to start with what you can afford. Your first house is not supposed to be your last house. I see my mom and dad on the school. And in their own time, once they build one house, that's it. They retire and love the glory. But these are Gen Zs. Your first house is not supposed to be your last house. You start there and you scale. afford it. Stop suffering and smiling. A lot of people pay huge, humongous rents in places that they can't even afford it. When you don't have no business in that place, go to where you can afford and start your life there. Yeah, and also we need to begin to, as developers, we need to, let me say this, I don't know who is watching, but we need to embrace the basic law of construction. And, we need to start encouraging co-ownership schemes, rent to buy, ideas that can help people own these houses. And people also need to embrace it. It happens all over the world. Co-ownership is not the bad thing. In Nigeria, when you go and tell a friend that I just bought the house, okay, now it's not too much to share anything. So, all right. We need to reorientate people, and we need to start to think differently. There are different ways to go about this thing. Yeah, so let me just stop.
All right.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you very much, Dotun. I think we poked him at a place where he's very passionate. I think that explains that. As a matter of fact, when we're preparing for this conference, we had a conversation on this very thing Dotun just ended on, talking about what is truly affordable. Affordable housing being relative. What is truly affordable? Where is it affordable? And then who is willing to take... So I think it's something... Mr. Fowley will add a thing before Folari would lead us to wrap up.
So that we can speed up. I'm going to put my own question on top of that to make sure that you have a very full cup to drink. So there is when we talk about we have not been seeing expansion of the urban space. What you've been seeing is that somebody goes to Shomolu, pulls down a bungalow, and then puts up a 3-story building. Yeah, that's some form of solution, but what can really propel real expansion of urban centers? Like, everybody doesn't have to live in Ikeja, for instance. That you can actually live at places that are not necessarily as commercial as Ikeja, and you can still have a sustainable livelihood. So what needs to be done? Yes, there's a lot that we have put at government's feet. Unfortunately, there's nobody in government here to respond. So let's take it easy. How we are saying government, there's nobody here to represent the government. So my question is, how can we truly expand urban centers? Because everybody from rural areas want to come to the urban center where they can find jobs. So how do we really expand urban centers? So you can just answer that.
So unfortunately, it's hard to talk about this without talking about the government, honestly. It's just hard because you said something very critical. And I mean, I've been to places, I've seen a few things, and like you rightly said, there's nothing stopping you living in Ibadan and working in Lagos, for example, under normal circumstances. I mean, but just like Dotun said earlier on, and it's very fundamental what he said, in this part of the world, development, infrastructure should precede development. But in this case, development precedes infrastructure. Meaning, by the time you even go build the houses, at some point, that's when the government realized that, there should be a road on this side. That's when the government realized and say, a train should come in at this side and all that. So, I mean, it's hard not to talk about the government. And honestly, and I think there's somebody who is going to be listening, and that's why I commend you guys for what you're doing, because somebody said earlier on, we must keep talking about this. 90 billion was given on subsidy recently to travel. I mean, and the Christians also come and say, you do another 90 billion for them. That's about 180 billion. That can do a lot of infrastructure. that can, I mean, you see, so these are the things that you see on the government side and you don't want to cut them some slacks because you feel that, for crying out loud, who talks about subsidy to travel to Jerusalem? I mean, when that 90, do you know what 90 billion can, do you know what 90 billion can actually do in terms of infrastructure? You know, so I think that we'll always be saying, so it's possible. And I think that people don't have problems. You see people live in UK, I mean, doctors in UK now, you live here and your workspace is 2 hours. And you meet up, the train facilities are there, the transportation is so superb. I mean, I was telling Dotun, right? Was it Dotun I was speaking to while I was in Canada? The system is perfect. I mean, the system is just close to perfect. You can be sure in the next 4 minutes, the next train is coming. You can be sure in the next 3 minutes, you're going to, I mean, it's perfect. And so, people can only do what they can. You tell them to get a space here, do this and all that. For example, TBS, what is TBS sitting down there doing? That same TBS that is just massive land. Why can't the government think of having that? Do you know the land there? Why can't we turn such place to a vertical building, housing people? I told you, a building house about 250 tenants. I mean, 250 tenants. And everything works perfectly well. So the TBS is just there. Every year we'll go there, just go there. And what stops of converting? You see all manner of. So again, there are quite a lot that can be done. And like I said, honestly, not to bore the people, because the people are really trying. Doctor said something earlier on when he talked about, when you say affordability. Yes, what is affordability? Recently, it was moved. We are only entitled to about 15 million from the National Housing Fund. But recently, that amount was moved to 50 million. But what can 50 million get you? Even if you're going to buy a land at Mowe, for example, Doctor is doing a great job in Mowe and all that, doing quite a whole lot of. If you're going to, do you know what it costs to build a house now? Iron rod moved from 500,000 per to as much as 1.2 million. What do you talk about cement? What do you talk about all the so that's why you see when the developers, and of course they're in business to make money. So they can only do as much as they can. And that's why we keep having all of this issue.
Thank you. A round of applause. So before we close this session, I think we would want Dotun to make a brief comment. Please, Dotun, keep it within 2 minutes. Kindly keep it within 2 minutes or one. I think as a follow-up to what Mr. Fowley just said about what is happening, those are the realities on ground. The realities are the realities. But I still think that we cannot, if nothing would change, what would we do? So we still have to find solutions in spite of the hard realities on ground. So, Dr. What, in your opinion, do you think can bring some reprieve, some form of succor in the midst of all of this? There's an infrastructure deficit, very obvious, and a lot of places, people do not even see the hope of something happening better, whether with electricity, good road networks, water, and all of that, transportation systems and all of that. So what can still be done in this situation to reduce this housing deficit that we face? 2 minutes, please, Dotun.
Okay, I'll keep it very brief. I said the other time that there are three sides to the problem: the government, the developer, and the people. And across board, one common problem is finance issue. Government wants money, developer needs money to build, the end user needs money to buy these houses. So I think that is a major key area that there's need for serious intervention. I think we don't have enough developmental funds out there. There's a lot of commercial funds, but commercial funding a real estate project, that's a mismatch. We don't have enough of that. And, by the time you even sit with some of the few funds available there for development, and their preference is always, Lekki Kui, housing deficit. That's just pure project for profit. Because everybody wants to play safe, they want to play in a location where you're guaranteed good returns and off-takers will readily take it up. I think we need more funding for development, patient funds that you can have for 5-10 years to make this thing. Because if you're going to build for, if you're going to bridge the gap in the housing deficit, there's need for somebody to pay the price. The developer can pay it off, the government can pay it off, people can pay it off. There's need for something in the middle that ties, and it's that patient finance solution that can help to bridge that gap. And speaking to government, the government needs to create infrastructure and specifically access to remote places. If that's all government we do, developer can pick it up from there. I think we need to give developers a big thumbs up. The work we're doing is massive. Some of the development you won't see half of them, if not for people like us who have ventured into developing and making these houses available. Recently I was in Doha, Qatar, and we went to a place to check a property. And around there, you don't have enough development yet, but what you have is good road, drainage, electricity already in place, waiting for people that will come and build. Only God knows when they're going to build their houses there. So government needs to invest in this infrastructure so that developer can pick it up from there. And we must also connect government. What they've done with the Lagos-Ibadan Express Road, Shagamu to Abeokuta Road, the railway between Lagos and Ibadan that goes to Abeokuta, that kind of access, trust me, is has helped a whole lot of development. We currently have a project in Abeokuta where in that corridor, everything just moves together. So things like this will help development, and we need to look at them. On the developer side, there's need to build more budget-friendly houses. Like I said, we need to start looking at shared ownership schemes. Ideas that can just make people start from where they can start from and become landlords, and we can begin to gradually reduce this deficit.
Thank you.
So let me keep it at that. So
Thank you. If I might say one last thing before we wrap up, something encouraging. During our last year's conference, someone sitting right here in the audience got inspiration, motivation to take a step. And while I was walking back from the back to my seat, someone tapped me at the back and said, wow, that I've made 2 decisions from this event today, that some things have happened. I'm just stressing the point that action is required. You may need to act. And this person from last year that made a decision, he now has a real estate company that, thankfully, he's contributing to the solution. We just talked about the fast-paced economy. We just talked about the challenges we face. They all present opportunities if you see them. Folarin.
You said it all. That's all I have to say. Thank you so much. We'll bring this session to a close. Let's take a message from before the gift presentation. Okay, so we'll be doing the gifts presentation while the promo goes on.
All right, this is presented to Mr. Sonjo Fawole for participating.
Says, my grandfather used to say that at least once in your life, you're going to need a lawyer, a doctor, a policeman, a preacher. But every day, at least 3 times a day, you need a farmer. Let me introduce you to our set of farmers. First up, is Shola, a highly accomplished medical doctor who saved many lives. Now today, he's a doctor, and yet he's also a farmer, and he doesn't need to get his hands dirty. Up next, we have Neka, a student of one of the most prestigious universities in the country. And she's doing amazing in school, and too doesn't need to get her hands dirty. You want to know why these professionals are doing so well as farmers? It's because they partnered in an investment that earns them consistent passive income. Introducing Top Range Farm Estate Scheme. Whatever your career path, you can invest in a minimum plot size of 600 square meters for just 300,000 naira, earning you a guaranteed yearly income of 40,000 naira. Or even better, you can own 1,600 square meters for 1.8 million naira, enjoying a substantial yearly income for as high as 300,000 naira. It's a balanced equation, don't you agree? You focus on your career and earn a passive income year on year, all from owning farmland. Incredible, right? That's why they can say,
it's my land, my farm, my future.
Why not visit our website? That's www.rolandproperties.com, or call the numbers on your screen right now. Let's make you a wealthy farmer.
Thank you very much. A round of applause once again for Mr. Dotun, Mr. Sonjo, and the CHLP team. If you're asked to tell us about your experience in one word of this wonderful conference, I'm very willing to hear what you have to say about it. What do you think this conference has brought you today? Has it been a time well spent? The people you have met? I mean, the information you now have? Yes, please, you can answer randomly in one word. Fantabulous, fantastic, awesome. Anyone else? Delightning, awesome, enlightening. So I think that if it's okay, I'd kindly ask us that we rise on our feet as we give a round of applause for the CHLP team for a wonderful, wonderful time at this conference. It's been a time well spent, a wonderful, 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 wonderful time well spent. Thank you very much, Mr. Folari. Thank you very much, Mr. Emmanuel. Please let's take our seats. We'd also like to thank our online audience. Thank you for being there, and I hope that you have had a very wonderful time as we have had here, except that you have missed some of the beautiful food we're having here at the venue. So right about now, we're going to be having the closing remarks from Ms. Chinenye Nwosu, a member of the CHLP team.
Hello, everyone. All protocols duly observed. This conference has been a very informative one, if I may say. Starting from the CHLP speech delivered by Mr. Folari Oloyede, to the speeches delivered by Mrs. Abiola Babatunde Ojo, Mr. Courage Obadagboin, Mr. Olumide Balogun, and Mr. Olusonjo Fawole, down to the sessions on corporate structuring, tech, and real estate. A few highlights we can take from this conference are: in the corporate structuring session, we were informed that it is important that we start future-proofing our businesses. And to do this, we need to put in place governance, management, and structure. This will help us bring about efficiency, accountability, and financing for our businesses. We were also advised not to overlook regulatory compliance, as it is very necessary to keep our businesses going. In the tech session, we realized that customers are only concerned about what you can offer them. So it is important that you prioritize customer service and get your employees engaged in delighting your customers, because they are the ones that will come in contact with your customers majorly. Then in the real estate session, Real estate regulators and lawmakers have been strongly advised to embrace mortgaging as a means of making housing affordable for the average Nigerian and to create better policies to aid housing. All in all, this conference has facilitated a rich exchange of ideas and expertise at the nexus of law and business. Let us leverage these gains to drive innovation, best practices in our respective fields, and champion everything that we can to move our businesses further and towards success. Thank you for your engagement, and we look forward to continuing this vital dialogue in years to come. And the vote of thanks will be taken by Ms. Oluwakemi Falula.
Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the entire CHLP team, I just want to thank you all for coming this afternoon. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for your participation. Thank you for making this quite an interesting and enlightening experience. I also once again want to thank our sponsors, Prudent Energy, Rollard Properties and Allied Services Limited, Dodge Gamings, Globus Empire, and First Watt Renewables. So a souvenir will be given to you. Please, you can open it on your way home. On your way home. Thank you. Thank you all so much. We look forward to seeing you at the CHLP Law and Business Conference 2025.
And with that, it's a wrap. Please put your hands together for yourselves. You have been an amazing, amazing, amazing audience. Thank you all very much for coming, and see you next year at CHLP Conference 2025. Thank you, and have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day.